Chapter 544. Good. Within the sea of twilight, one's spiritual consciousness can only extend within a radius of 3 feet. Let's stick close to each other and not get separated. Shen Qinyu finished, before taking the first step into the sea of twilight. After the two walked for an hour within the sea of twilight, Shen Qinyu was just about to let go of Ning Cheng's hand when she heard Ning Cheng speak up. There seems to be a time stone in front of us. I can feel the flow of time. Ning Cheng pulled up Shen Qinyu, who was sitting on the ground, and looked at her ragged appearance, before speaking up in an apologetic voice. I'm sorry, I didn't know that we couldn't fly in this place. At the same time, Shen Qinyu's voice once again arrived. Don't let go of my hand for the time being. You have not yet adapted to the sea of twilight. Once you let go of my hand, we might end up losing each other. Junior apprentice sister Shen, are you also representing the Orchid Burrow Celestial River? Half a day later, Ning Cheng asked all the questions he wanted to ask and took the initiative to change the topic. Shen Qinyu showed a faint smile. Even if striking order Holy Emperor cultivated for another 1,000,000 years, he would still not be able to stand side by side with the perpetual moon Holy Emperor. Even if they were both heavenly emperors, striking order Heavenly Emperor still lagged behind. Within the vast starry skies, striking order Heavenly Emperor didn't count for much. If not for striking order Starry Sky's poverty, striking order Heavenly Emperor's striking order Starry Sky would have already changed its name. What is the value of the perpetual moontime key? Ning Cheng quickly asked. This was what he cared about the most. The perpetual moontime key was in his ring, but he had no idea what was so precious about it. Ning Cheng felt shocked. He did not know what was going on. He quickly reached out and pulled Shen Qinyu closer, wanting to let her fall to the ground. Shen Qinyu shook her head. I don't know. I only know that it was left behind by the perpetual moon Holy Emperor. Just like the time wilderness, it also belongs to the perpetual moon Holy Emperor. Shen Qinyu showed a smile. No, I came to the Orchid Burrow Celestial River to enter the time wilderness. In fact, there are many cultivators like me who came from other starry skies. I entered the time wilderness for 2 things, the most important of which is the perpetual moon time key. Of course. Ning Cheng gave a calm smile. Riches and honor came from danger. This sentence was equally applicable to starry skies cultivators. This is the deepest part of the sea of twilight. No one can come here by themselves. The cultivators who can come to this place were all sucked in by the time maelstrom. As such, it is absolutely impossible for them to get out. In Ning Cheng's impression, Shen Qinyu, who had always been relatively calm, spoke with a trembling voice. From this, one could tell that she feared the depths of the sea of twilight. Shen Qinyu's trembling voice arrived. We can no longer get out. Ning Cheng did not hesitate and followed Shen Qinyu inside. He quickly discovered that his spiritual consciousness did not have a range of only 3 feet like what Shen Qinyu had said. Rather, his spiritual consciousness encompassed a radius of 10 miles. Shen Qinyu, on the other hand, did not show even half a shred of impatience. Instead, she still spoke in a soft tone. That's right. The venue for the finals is called Grand Culmination Starry Skies. In our positional plane, Grand Culmination Starry Skies is one of the 4 Grand Starry Skies and also the central location of the entire Grand Culmination Starry Skies. Don't fly up. Ning Cheng heard Shen Qinyu's screams, while at the same time, he saw a burst of light erupt from the place where he had just stood. If he had been just a little bit slower, he would have been ambushed by this ball of light. What about the 3 realms of destiny? Ning Cheng was like a studious student. Thank you. After Ning Cheng replied with 2 words, he was just about to pull out his hand when he found that Shen Qinyu's hand was still holding on to his. After that, she looked up at Ning Cheng. The fear on her face had already disappeared, and even her voice did not tremble like before. You don't have to feel guilty. I didn't explain it clearly. I was the one who encouraged you to come here. In this place, there is no way to get out. If the 2 of us were to talk, then maybe we could die a little easier. Shen Qinyu once again tore off a strip of cloth from her tattered robes. After tying it around her wrist, she used the other end to tie Ning Cheng's wrist and spoke, "I can only see about 10 feet around me from here. I can't use my spiritual consciousness anymore. If we don't tie each other up, I'm afraid that we would soon be separated." This was not the first time that he had come into contact with Shen Qinyu. In his impression, this woman was somewhat mysterious. Rip. Ning Cheng could clearly hear Shen Qinyu's robes being torn apart. A faint bloody aura spread out, and a powerful force tried to sweep Shen Qinyu away. When Ning Cheng heard Shen Qinyu's explanation, he frowned slightly. Should he enter the Sea of Twilight? Speaking of time stones, he already had 3 of them. Was it worth it to take the risk? I know that there are many starry skies outside of the striking order starry skies. After the tryouts come out, do we have to go to the biggest starry skies in the universe to participate in the finals? Ning Cheng truly had a lot of questions. Now that he had caught hold of Shen Qinyu, he might as well ask her about it. Hearing Ning Cheng's words, Shen Qinyu immediately grabbed Ning Cheng's hand and spoke, "Senior apprentice brother wanderer, you should hurry up and follow the direction you feel." Just as Ning Cheng was still indulging in flights of fancy, a warm and soft hand grabbed his hand, followed by Shen Qinyu's voice, "Senior apprentice brother wanderer, in the Sea of Twilight, you must not stop. You have to keep moving around, that way, your lifespan will not decline. Once you stop in a place, your lifespan will quickly decline." Shen Qinyu was a very knowledgeable person. No matter what Ning Cheng asked, she could always answer it in a way that Ning Cheng could easily understand. After talking to Shen Qinyu, Ning Cheng felt that he had benefited a lot. However, the powerful force did not allow Ning Cheng to do so. He could only feel the endless tearing blade lights slamming into his body. At the same time, a horrifying force swept him away. He could not even bring out his twin wings of the heavenly clouds. He could not resist the blade lights, nor could he resist the power sweeping towards him. Shen Qinyu answered with patience, "If a cultivator in the heavens mandate realm can cut off all impurities and successfully surmount the tribulation, they would be able to advance to the heaven-seated realm and become a powerhouse in the heaven-seated realm. Heaven-seated powerhouses can break through life and death and advance to the life and death realm after understanding yin and yang. As for the eternal realm, I heard that one's life is eternal and endless. I have only read about it from other places, but I have never experienced it myself." Ning Cheng and Shen Qinyu's position was not too far from the Sea of Twilight. Ning Cheng felt that Shen Qinyu had stopped before he could ask too many questions. "We finally landed. This Sea of Twilight is too scary." Ning Cheng gave out a sigh. However, a feeling of endless vicissitudes of time surrounded him. The feeling of time flowing away from the perpetual moon lake once again welled up in his heart. Ning Cheng's heart skipped a beat. If this continued, his lifespan would end before he could find the twilight sand. How could she casually say such an important thing? Ning Cheng looked at Shen Qinyu in surprise. Shen Qinyu explained, "I heard that only those who are trapped in the Sea of Twilight can understand the meaning of this sentence. However, don't think that the Sea of Twilight looks like a sunset over the sea. In fact, there is not even a single drop of water in this place. What you see is a combination of time wheels and time wheels. We will have to enter the Sea of Twilight, which is extremely dangerous. If you are not careful, you will end up getting caught by the time wheels. Time would disappear in an instant, and you would have no chance of survival." Bang! A huge impact force erupted, and Ning Cheng felt as if his entire body was about to fall apart. However, he knew that he had finally landed on the ground. "You also know that the sunset is infinitely beautiful, but it's almost dusk." Shen Qinyu looked at Ning Cheng in amazement. "Is the perpetual moon Holy Emperor the same as Striking Order Heavenly Emperor, a powerhouse who controls a starry sky?" Ning Cheng asked. What appeared in front of Ning Cheng was a beautiful world, completely different from the grayish and dim atmosphere in the rest of the place. Standing here, Ning Cheng felt as if he was standing on the seashore where the sun was about to set. The red sunset glow looked just like a rainbow, forming a rainbow bridge over the distant sea. Although she spoke, Shen Qinyu felt shocked in her heart. She did not think that Ning Qing could feel the flow of time within the time stones. She had entered the time wilderness for 3 years and had not obtained even a single time stone. Not waiting for Ning Qing to speak, he felt a kind of tearing pain, as a blade light, which he simply could not resist, blasted into his body, followed by a powerful pulling force rolling towards him. Shen Qinyu saw through Ning Cheng's thoughts and spoke, "As for whether to enter this place or not, you should think about it carefully before we go in. Otherwise, once we go in, we will most likely lose our way and never come out." Shen Qinyu's weak voice arrived. "These are the time blade lights and time vortexes. Do not use your celestial essence to resist them. Not only would you not be able to block them, but it would also cause this force to grow even stronger." Although his spiritual consciousness had also been suppressed, it was still many times more powerful compared to 3 meters. After Ning Qing understood this, he immediately felt relieved. His starry sky's sea of consciousness truly was different. "I've naturally heard of this sentence. How did you know about it?" Ning Qing felt even more puzzled than Shen Qinyu. Of course, he knew that it was a poem written by Li Shangyin of the Tang dynasty. Xiang Wan felt uncomfortable, "So I drove up the ancient plains. The setting sun is infinitely beautiful, but dusk is approaching." He wondered how Shen Qinyu knew about this sentence. What's going on? Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness swept out, only to find that his spiritual consciousness had shrunk from a range of 10 miles to a radius of about 10 feet. Ning Cheng, who was still hesitant, suddenly felt his heart lighten up when he heard Shen Qinyu's words. Along the way, didn't he always seek opportunities amidst dangers? There were countless cultivators in the vast starry skies. How many dangerous opportunities would there be for him to obtain? Ning Cheng promptly stopped resisting, and the violent sweeping force wrapped around Ning Cheng and Shen Qinyu. At this moment, Ning Cheng could not even use his spiritual consciousness. The setting sun is infinitely beautiful, but dusk is approaching. Such a sentence popped up in Ning Cheng's mind for no reason. It was simply too appropriate to describe this place. Shen Qinyu spoke up calmly, "The perpetual moon time key is probably the most valuable thing in the time wilderness. The reason why I told you about it is that the time lake exploded, causing the perpetual moon time key to never appear again. When you went into seclusion, I went to the perpetual moon lake once, which is how I came to know about it." Ning Cheng did not want to tell Shen Qinyu that his spiritual consciousness could reach a range of 10 miles, as such, he could only let Shen Qinyu do as she pleased. Ning Cheng quickened his pace, and in just a few dozen breaths, he arrived next to the time stone. Just as Ning Cheng bent down to pick up the time stone, an extreme sense of danger suddenly rose from the bottom of his heart. Ning Cheng did not even think about it and immediately flew out with Shen Qinyu. In fact, Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness had already detected the time stone. Although it was much smaller than the 3 time stones he obtained, Ning Cheng felt sure that it was a time stone. After speaking, Shen Qinyu stood up and spoke, "Let's head to the Sea of Twilight now. If you have any questions, you can ask me on the way." What a beautiful place. The setting sun is infinitely beautiful, but dusk is approaching. After a long time, Ning Cheng spoke up with a sigh. As soon as he thought of it, he spoke up. Chapter 545. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness fell into his ring, and found that he could still take out the things inside, causing him to finally feel relieved. At least in this place, he could still cultivate. From the looks of it, Shen Qinyu's spiritual consciousness should have been completely shackled. Most likely, she would not even be able to open her ring. Ning Cheng was just about to tell Shen Qinyu that he could take out the things inside the ring when Shen Qinyu spoke up once again. "In the deepest part of the Sea of Twilight, time would always pass by. Even walking around would not help. With our lifespan, we can only live for 10 years at most. Moreover, the depths of the Sea of Twilight are boundless. Even if we keep walking, we will still be here after 10 years. Ning Cheng remained silent. He could indeed feel his lifespan slipping away. Regardless of whether he could use his spiritual consciousness or not, as long as he was in here, he would not be able to survive. Thinking of this, Ning Cheng gave a sigh and spoke, I still have a miniature world, let's go into the miniature world and think of a way. Shen Qinyu shook her head and spoke, it's useless. Unless the laws of your miniature world surpass the laws of the Sea of Twilight, the flow of time within your miniature world would still be the same. It would not slow down just because you entered the miniature world. What's more, without divine sense, it's impossible to enter the small world. Is there really no way to get out of the depths of the Sea of Twilight? Ning Cheng's face turned ugly to look at. Shen Qinyu spoke up calmly, not only is there no way to get out, but I also heard that the loss of one's lifespan in the Sea of Twilight cannot be recovered. In other places within the time wilderness, once one lost their lifespan, one's appearance would turn old. However, this kind of aging could be restored through cultivation. But in the Sea of Twilight, one's lifespan would be lost, and it would be difficult to regain their old appearance. Even if you increase your cultivation, you will only be able to increase your lifespan, but you will lose your beauty forever. Ah! Ning Cheng turned sluggish. According to Shen Qinyu's words, even if he went out one day, he would become a white-haired old man. How could he be together with Shi Qionghua and Luofei? Not caring about Ning Cheng's stupor, Shen Qinyu also gave out a sigh, while her eyes revealed a trace of loneliness. She never thought that the peerless beauty that she had been concealing would slowly age alone in the Sea of Twilight. She thought of Xiao Yu, who had been pursuing her crazily. He was the only senior brother that she had a good impression of. In the grand culmination Starry Skies, the spiritual heaven sect was also a top-ranked sect, belonging to the Starry Skies class. In the Ling Xiao sect, only disciples who could inherit the sect's mantle could have the Xiao character in their name. However, Xiao Yu was obviously the pride of the spiritual heaven sect. He had cultivated to the celestial bridge realm before the age of 100. Shen Qinyu looked at Ning Cheng beside her and felt a little lost in her heart. Ning Cheng was a Starry Skies wanderer and a principled Starry Skies wanderer. If Ning Cheng was replaced by Xiao Yu, with only 10 years to live, how would he treat himself? Do you have someone you like? Shen Qinyu interrupted Ning Cheng's daze. Ning Cheng gave an N sound and spoke, yes, I have 2 wives. I was thinking, if one day I grow old, what would happen if I went out and saw them? Shen Qinyu apparently did not think that Ning Cheng would have 2 wives. She froze for a while before asking in doubt, aren't Starry Skies wanderers always alone? Why does he have a wife? In Ning Cheng's mind, Shi Qinghua's incomparably demure demeanor appeared, along with Ji Luofei's gentle and tranquil temperament. In comparison, Luofei was more extroverted than Qinghua. Before I entered the Starry Skies, or rather, when I was in a low-level true cultivation mainland, I already had 2 wives. Ning Cheng's tone no longer had the previous impatience. He believed that little Chase could escape. Even if it was just a soul essence cultivator, he still had a way to deal with it. When the time came, he would ask little Chase in detail. In any case, he had to get out of this place. If Shen Qinyu did not want to, then after Shen Qinyu found a place to settle down, he would find a way to get out. Seeing Ning Cheng turn silent again, Shen Qinyu suddenly spoke up, I heard that in the depths of the Sea of Twilight, there is an ice essence called Glimmer of Dawn. A drop of this ice essence can restore a person's original appearance. It's just that the value of this thing is even higher than the Twilight Sand. Anyway, it's just hearsay, no one has ever seen it before. Glimmer of Dawn ice essence. Ning Cheng muttered to himself before asking, I've said before, the sunset is infinitely beautiful, but it's only near dusk. Where did you hear this sentence? Shen Qinyu shook her head, it's not that I've heard it before, but everyone who knows about the Sea of Twilight has heard this sentence. I heard that only when you reach the Sea of Twilight, can you truly understand the meaning of this sentence. Now that we have not only reached the Sea of Twilight, but also the deepest part of the Sea of Twilight, I still do not know what this sentence means. It looks like rumors are sometimes not necessarily true. Ning Cheng did not speak, he wondered if there was such a coincidence. The people from both worlds remembered this sentence, and then the people here used this sentence to describe the Sea of Twilight. You don't have to think too much about it. Our lifespans are limited. Let's walk around this place for a while and try our luck. If we can't find the exit after a few years, I plan to find a place to wait quietly. Shen Qinyu's tone turned even calmer. Apparently, she had already accepted her fate. Ning Cheng nodded. He did not refute Shen Qinyu's words. However, finding a place to wait for death was absolutely impossible. In fact, I also come from the grand culmination starry skies. Compared to you, I'm much luckier. I have a master in the life and death realm, and a perfect family. Shen Qinyu and Ning Cheng continued to walk while talking about her origins. Ning Cheng just listened quietly. He did not ask any questions, nor did he take the initiative to talk to Shen Qinyu about his own matters. One day passed just like that. 2 days, 3 days, 1 month passed just like that. Shen Qinyu had already stopped talking. She suddenly felt that she was a bit long-winded. Even if she added up the words she spoke in her entire life, she would not be able to speak as much as she did in a month. In such an environment, she seemed to be able to forget that she was trapped in the sea of twilight only by talking non-stop. The second month, the third month also passed by. As Ning Cheng and Shen Qinyu continued to walk, the two people's lifespans rapidly drained away. From the start of the second month, Shen Qinyu did not speak a single word, while Ning Cheng also did not speak a single word. The two people just kept walking. Shen Qinyu's eyes grew more and more tired, and her entire person seemed to be growing more and more haggard and dispirited. Her exposed white skin had also turned dark due to walking in the depths of the sea of twilight for a few months. In the first 3 months, Shen Qinyu would occasionally look at Ning Cheng. But by the 4th month, she had even closed her eyes. Ning Cheng remained silent. For the next 4 months, he continuously used his spiritual consciousness to capture the lost years outside. He wanted to grasp the glimmer of epiphany that he could not grasp in the perpetual moon lake. At the same time, he also wanted to find a way out. However, after 4 months, his spiritual consciousness had extended from a radius of 10 feet to a radius of 20 feet. Yet, he still could not feel the lost years again. Just as the 5th month was about to pass, Shen Qinyu finally stopped. There was no end to this road, whether she walked or not, it would be the same. Ning Cheng and Shen Qinyu had been walking at the same pace, which allowed Ning Cheng to contemplate and gain insights at the same speed. But when Shen Qinyu stopped, she pulled at the belt in her hand, causing Ning Cheng to suddenly wake up. Only then did he stop and ask subconsciously, "Why did you stop? You're a silent person." "I've never walked with a person like this for almost 5 months without saying a word. I'm sorry, but I can't walk with you anymore. I really can't walk anymore." Shen Qinyu's tone was a bit dry. From this, Ning Cheng understood that she was not lying. She truly could not walk anymore. Ning Cheng secretly cursed himself for being careless. Shen Qinyu did not have a spiritual consciousness, which meant that her celestial essence consumption was many times higher than his. Walking like this for 5 months, without asking, Ning Cheng understood that she had reached her limit. As such, he felt somewhat apologetic. Not waiting for Ning Cheng to speak, Shen Qinyu suddenly took off the mask on her face and spoke, "We are also friends. I should at least let you see my true face. You can continue to walk the rest of the way alone. I'll stay here and wait for you." Ning Cheng, who originally wanted to speak, looked at Shen Qinyu's face in a daze. He had never seen such a perfect face. Her eyes, which could only be regarded as beautiful before, suddenly turned vivid when placed on this face. Even the extreme exhaustion and loneliness could not conceal these 2 eyes that were like 2 clear springs. Slightly pale lips, coupled with this pair of eyes, made her already devastatingly beautiful face even more indescribable. Her messy hair and the clothes that hung on her body like rags did not diminish her beauty in the slightest. Instead, it set off a kind of peerless and refined aura. Anyone who saw this face would immediately forget to observe everything around them. This was simply a masterpiece of the starry sky universe, a landscape painting, a beautiful song. Ning Cheng's gaze gradually wandered away, while Luofei and Qianghua appeared in front of his eyes. One was the most beautiful thing he saw in front of him, while the other was the most beautiful thing in his heart. This kind of dissociation gradually gathered in his mind, making him eager to return to Qianghua and Luofei's side. Shen Qinyu did not care about Ning Cheng's gaze. Any man who saw her for the first time would feel a sense of amazement. She even admitted that in this world, she had not seen a second woman more beautiful than her. However, she soon saw Ning Cheng's gaze wander. How could someone think of another woman when looking at her? Shen Qinyu showed a faint smile. If possible, she really wanted to see the woman Ning Cheng was thinking of. When she thought of this, she suddenly shook her head. If it were in the past, she would never have thought of such a thing. I thought too much. I actually wanted to let you see my face before we separate. If it were in the past, I would never have imagined that it would be true. Shen Qinyu's voice still sounded dry. She wanted to thank Ning Cheng for saving her once, which allowed Ning Cheng to see her face. Naturally, it also contained a sense of self-pity. She had unexpectedly fallen in the sea of twilight with a strange starry skies wanderer. Chapter 546. Let's go together. Ning Cheng took out a pot of water from his ring and handed it to Shen Qinyu. Shen Qinyu took the water that Ning Cheng handed to her and took a sip before looking at Ning Cheng in amazement. You can use your spiritual consciousness? Ning Cheng smiled. My spiritual consciousness is also bound, but I can still take out the things inside the ring. Thank you. Shen Qinyu felt much better after drinking the water. She really wanted to ask Ning Cheng to help her take out a set of clothes from her ring, but thinking of the things inside her ring, she held back. As for asking Ning Cheng to borrow a set of clothes to wear, she had never thought about it. If you can continue walking, then let's continue walking. I think if we don't go, we won't have any hope at all. If we keep walking, then maybe one day we can find a way out. Ning Cheng looked at Shen Qinyu and spoke as slowly as possible. In the beginning, Ning Cheng still wanted to leave Shen Qinyu in one place while he continued to look for a way out. Once he found a way out, he would then come back and lead Shen Qinyu away. Now that 5 months had passed, Ning Cheng knew that such an idea would never become a reality. He had no idea which direction he had come from a few minutes ago. Not to mention coming back to find someone in the future. Shen Qinyu took in a deep breath and nodded. I can go. All right. Although he did not use his spiritual consciousness to observe Shen Qinyu, Ning Cheng could see that Shen Qinyu looked fine and did not ask anything. Ning Cheng quickly fell into a state of enlightenment regarding the passage of time. At first, he could only feel his lifespan rapidly disappearing. Towards the end, he caught the passing of time. Not only did he touch the flow of time, but his spiritual consciousness could also penetrate further and further. In the end, Ning Cheng even found a source within this flow of time. It was as if the closer he got to the fountain, the faster the surrounding time flowed, and the faster his lifespan was consumed. Ning Cheng's mind suddenly sobered up. If it was any other place, Ning Cheng would have definitely stayed far away from this place where the flow of time was extremely fast. But now Ning Cheng decided to speed up. This might be his only way out. At this time, Ning Cheng no longer tried to save his celestial essence. Junior apprentice Sister Chen, I think we should hurry up. Ning Cheng had only spoken half of his words when he suddenly stopped. Shen Qinyu followed him mechanically, as if her consciousness had completely disappeared. It was just a subconscious action, repeated step by step. Not good. If this goes on, I'll be a lamp that runs out of oil. Ning Cheng did not dare to think about it anymore. Not caring about anything else, he raised his hand and put Shen Qinyu on his back. At the same time, he took out a few medicinal pills and put them in her mouth. Feeling that Shen Qinyu's aura had calmed down a little, Ning Cheng stimulated his celestial essence and no longer looked as slow as before. At the same time, a faint trail of dust appeared under his feet. Compared to before, his speed was more than 10 times faster. The more Ning Cheng moved in the direction he felt, the more he could feel his lifespan flowing away. Sometimes, the most dangerous place was the safest place. Moreover, he had no other choice. The formidable power of the mysterious yellow formless was vividly reflected at this time. Even if Ning Cheng ran at full speed, the mysterious yellow formless would still allow him to temper his spiritual consciousness. His spiritual consciousness was constantly strengthening, and his senses were also constantly strengthening under the constant strengthening of his spiritual consciousness. At this time, Ning Cheng completely forgot about the passage of time and the disappearance of time. He was immersed in a kind of walking epiphany. The passage of time around him allowed him to constantly feel the passing of life, allowing him to grasp some of the mysteries within the passage of time. At the same time, this kind of running also allowed his spiritual consciousness to soar. Shen Qinyu was awakened by a mysterious aura. She opened her eyes and found herself lying on Ning Cheng's back. Ning Cheng, carrying her on his back, seemed to be unaware of anything as he madly rushed forward. As someone who came from a big family and had a good master, Shen Qinyu instantly understood Ning Cheng's actions. Ning Cheng had fallen into an epiphany, moreover, it was a walking epiphany. Shen Qinyu felt extremely grateful towards Ning Cheng in her heart, but at the same time, she also felt a kind of shock from the bottom of her heart. She came from the center of this positional plane and had seen countless geniuses. However, she had never seen a genius like Ning Cheng. Carrying a person on his back, while crazily running through the deepest part of the Sea of Twilight, he could still achieve an epiphany. What kind of aptitude was this? Was it too terrifying? No wonder he could cultivate to the celestial Shatterer realm without any master. Not only did he cultivate to the celestial Shatterer realm, but his combat prowess was also amazing. As the powerful aura of enlightenment shrouded her, Shen Qinyu suddenly closed her eyes and immersed herself in this epiphany. Previously, she had closed her eyes because her celestial essence had dried up, almost to the point of exhaustion. But now, she closed her eyes because of Ning Cheng's epiphany. Ning Cheng's epiphany also gave her an epiphany. As the years passed, time never stopped. When Shen Qinyu opened her eyes again, they were filled with excitement and joy. She had unexpectedly touched upon the mysterious laws of time. At this moment, she believed that if given enough time, once she advanced to the celestial bridge realm, she would become the first person in the entire starry skies to touch upon the laws of time in the celestial river realm. No, it should be the second. She had touched the surface of the laws of time during Ning Cheng's epiphany, which meant that Ning Cheng definitely had a deeper understanding than her. Maybe Ning Cheng had truly touched upon the laws of time, something that only those who had reached beyond the eternal realm could touch. As Shen Qinyu thought of this, she felt even more horrified. A cultivator in the celestial Shatterer realm who had touched upon the surface of the laws of time, could this be described as a genius? Since ancient times, which genius could touch upon the surface of the laws of time in the celestial Scry realm? Not to mention touching upon the surface of the laws of time, even touching upon the surface of the laws of space was extremely rare. As Shen Qinyu thought of this, she retracted her thoughts and her gaze fell on Ning Cheng's back. Previously, when she had comprehended the laws of time, she had not noticed the changes in Ning Cheng. However, when she retracted her thoughts and saw the changes in Ning Cheng, she almost screamed out loud. Ning Cheng's originally gray hair had turned completely white, and even his skin had aged a lot. Shen Qinyu instantly sobered up, only to find that her hair had also turned silver. Time passed by so quickly. Did this unknown wanderer carry her on his back for 2 or 3 years? She did not know why, but the passage of time was getting faster and faster. If this continued, she would not have a lifespan of more than 10 years. Perhaps her lifespan would soon run dry. At this moment, Shen Qinyu's heart no longer felt the same desolation and loneliness from before. She knew that she could only live for a year at most. However, at the moment when she was about to fall, she unexpectedly touched upon the surface of the laws of time and felt a trace of the passage of time. For a starry skies cultivator, what could make her happier than this? A long roar awakened Shen Qinyu. Ning Cheng stopped and stood in place while letting out a long roar. Shen Qinyu felt her heart tremble. This long roar contained the vicissitudes of time and the joy of enlightenment. Shen Qinyu could not make such a long roar, However, when she heard this long roar, she felt a resonance from the depths of her soul. At this moment, she and Ning Qing experienced the same epiphany. However, the next moment, she felt stunned by the scene in front of her. A gorgeous rainbow appeared in front of them, with a faint star-like sunset glow in the middle of the rainbow. She had never seen a rainbow so close to her, nor had she ever seen a sunset glow so close to her fingertips. Beautiful, it was simply too beautiful. Even with her lifespan rapidly draining away, Shen Qinyu could not stop praising this beauty. This beauty came from her heart, from the depths of her soul. Perhaps in the next moment, she would fall under this beautiful sunset. However, she did not want to give up on this beauty. The sunset is infinitely beautiful, but it is near dusk. Shen Qinyu murmured these words in a low voice. She seemed to understand some of the meaning behind it. Between heaven and earth, life is like a white colt passing by, suddenly. After the long roar, Ning Qing suddenly spoke out in a clear voice. He finally understood the meaning of this sentence. If there was a world between heaven and earth, then this was it. In this world, 100 years would pass by in just a snap of the fingers. If I cross this world, then what? Ning Qing laughed, as he flew up and unexpectedly rushed towards the setting sun. Dashing towards the beautiful sunset rainbow, Shen Qinyu gave out an "ah" sound in her heart and wanted to stop Ning Qing. This place was simply too beautiful. Even if she had to stand here and look at the beautiful sunset, until she fell, she would be willing to do so without any regrets. However, this wanderer actually wanted to take her through this beautiful scenery and destroy this beautiful sunset. His snow-white hair flew up and fell on Shen Qinyu's face, forcibly suppressing Shen Qinyu's attempts to stop him. An ice-cold aura assaulted her, causing Shen Qinyu to shiver. She could feel the chill. But then, she felt something wrong again. The loss of her lifespan had disappeared without a trace, and in front of her was a world of ice and snow. My spiritual consciousness can now extend out about 10 feet, and I can also take out the things inside the ring. Shen Qinyu's words of surprise had not yet finished when her feet landed on the ground. Ning Qing put her down, however, at this moment, she had completely forgotten what she had just said. She followed the gaze of Ning Qing, who was standing next to her, and felt shocked once again. At the far end of the horizon, a soft red glow could be seen, and the rainbow reflected by the red glow looked even more beautiful. This was not the red glow of the sunset, nor was it the rainbow of the sunset. Rather, it was the appearance of the rising sun, the first glimmer of dawn. That is where we just came from. The place we came from is the sunset. After we pass through this sunset, we arrive at the first glimmer of dawn. When we passed through it, it was very close, but when we look back, it feels very far away. Ning Qing looked at the red glow in the distance and spoke with a hint of excitement. Even if he did not gain anything in the Sea of Twilight, he would still feel satisfied. Passing through the sunset was the first glimmer of dawn. No one understood it better than him, as he had done it himself. Combined with his experience of walking in the Sea of Twilight for a few months, Ning Qing believed that he would once again touch the surface of the laws of time. At this moment, he finally understood the meaning of the phrase, "The sunset is infinitely beautiful, but dusk is approaching." Chapter 547. Ning Qing looked at the distant dawn and stood there for a long time without moving. It seemed as if he had once again fallen into an epiphany. However, Shen Qinyu could feel the coldness growing more and more intense. The surrounding ice-cold air felt like bone-piercing steel needles that continuously pierced into her body. Even with her spiritual consciousness and her celestial essence, she could not completely drive away this ice-cold air. She retracted her gaze from the dawn and saw that she was surrounded by an endless plain. No, it should be an endless ice field. There were no protruding peaks, not even a single blade of grass. Looking at her naked body, Shen Qinyu quickly moved a few feet away from Ning Qing and took out a tent. Entering it, she quickly took off all the tattered clothes on her body. After casting a dust removal technique on herself, Shen Qinyu felt relieved. Although her hair had turned silver, her skin and appearance had not changed much. Just as Shen Qinyu took out her clothes and was about to put them on, a lightning-like shadow rushed into her tent and quickly took her away. Shen Qinyu did not resist. The moment the shadow took her away, she immediately recognized who this person was. She grabbed the clothes in her hands and calmly looked at Ning Cheng before asking, why? She wasn't an irrational person, but the wanderer in front of her, who had brought her here, didn't say anything. Instead, he grabbed her when she was about to put on her clothes. This made her feel extremely angry and humiliated deep in her heart. Ning Qing spoke with an equally calm tone, you will know when you look back. When Shen Qinyu looked back, she found that the tent she had just arranged was nowhere to be seen. The place where she had arranged the tent was now covered in ice crystals, with nothing else. Ah! Shen Qinyu screamed in shock, forgetting to put on her clothes. Put on your clothes first, I'll explain it to you. Ning Qing glanced at Shen Qinyu and spoke with a calm tone. Shen Qinyu discovered that she was still naked. Although for her, being looked at once was the same as being looked at 100 times. However, taking off her clothes in front of a stranger, even if she was rational, she still could not get over it. No longer caring about the fact that she was in front of this wanderer, Shen Qinyu quickly changed her clothes before giving out a sigh of relief. Do you know about the time wheel? Not waiting for Shen Qinyu to speak, Ning Cheng took the initiative to ask. Shen Qinyu put on the mask first. When she felt a trace of coldness on her face, she took in a deep breath and nodded, I know that within the time wilderness, the time wheel is the most terrifying thing. Once the time wheel appears, if you can't escape from the time wheel in time, you will die 10 times out of 10. Speaking until here, Shen Qinyu seemed to have thought of something and looked at Ning Cheng in shock. You just said. Ning Cheng nodded, yes, it was the time wheel just now. The time wheels in this place seemed different from other places. They moved in a certain direction and did not spread out. Perhaps it was also because the time wheel in this place was not broken that it did not spread out. Just now, a time wheel passed by the tent where you changed your clothes, and I pulled you out in time. Ning Cheng was too familiar with the time wheel. He had almost died under the broken time wheel in the perpetual moon lake. Fortunately, he had the mysterious yellow bead. I understand. Shen Qinyu looked at the vast expanse of ice crystal plains and immediately understood why there were no protrusions in this place. Time wheels came and went in this place all year round, and anything that protruded would be swept to the ground by the time wheel. Thank you. Shen Qinyu gave a grateful bow to Ning Cheng. Although she was not like other female cultivators, who would not react to being seen naked, she still found it hard to get rid of the awkwardness in her heart. Seeing Shen Qinyu still shivering from the cold, Ning Cheng suddenly grabbed Shen Qinyu's hand and spoke, burning the heart with an inch of fire, celestial essence entering the lesser lake. Not waiting for Shen Qinyu to operate her cultivation method, a warm flow of celestial essence appeared within her body. After Ning Cheng put down her hand, Shen Qinyu's celestial essence automatically flowed through the meridians pointed out by Ning Cheng. The bone-chilling cold immediately dissipated, and it no longer felt as terrifying as before. Did you think of this by yourself? Shen Qinyu looked at Ning Cheng in shock. She knew that Ning Cheng did not belong to any sect, nor did he have any inheritance. However, his cold-dispelling cultivation method turned out to be quite powerful. At this moment, she had already forgotten about the awkwardness from before. Ning Cheng showed a smile, I thought about it myself and read about it from other places. But let's talk about it later. There should be some time stones here. Time stones. As Ning Cheng spoke, Shen Qinyu saw a time stone. She had wanted to ask about it, but she had already put it aside. With a flash, she rushed towards the place where the time wheel had just swept past and reached out to grab a dark gray-colored stone the size of a longan. A faint flow of time radiated from the stone. It felt like the vicissitudes of time, but it also felt like an indescribable flow of time. It really is a time stone. Shen Qinyu's eyes flashed with excitement. She had entered the time wilderness for a few years, but this was the first time she had picked up a time stone. So that's how it is. Ning Cheng understood that wherever the time wheel had passed through, there was a high chance of finding a time stone. Time stones and time wheels had a connection. When he was in the perpetual moon lake, he had picked up 3 time stones because the time wheel had broken. If that time wheel had broken, then maybe he would have found more than 1 time stone. Ning Cheng also knew that apart from him, no one would dare to break the time wheel. Shen Qinyu finally sobered up from her excitement. She put the time stone into a jade box and then handed the jade box to Ning Cheng. "This is for you. You saved me, and you brought me to this place." Ning Cheng pushed Shen Qinyu's hand back and spoke, "Since there is a time stone here, it means that there are others. As long as we look around here, we can definitely find more time stones. From now on, whoever finds it, can keep it." Shen Qinyu did not continue to give the time stone to Ning Cheng. This kind of thing was priceless, and she also longed for it. However, Ning Cheng, this starry skies wanderer, once again gave her a new impression. A celestial scryer cultivator who could refuse a time stone, she felt sure that there was not a second person like him. Not to mention celestial scryer cultivators, even striking order heavenly emperor might not be able to refuse a time stone. This kind of thing was just too precious. If it were any other cultivator, they might have already prepared to kill her to silence her. However, this starry skies wanderer in front of her actually refused it without even the slightest bit of greed. "Remember, don't stray too far away from me." After Ning Cheng spoke a few words to Shen Qinyu, he took the initiative to enter this seemingly endless ice field. Shen Qinyu nodded. Although her spiritual consciousness only had a range of 1 foot, her eyes could still see Ning Cheng in front of her. Ning Cheng had spoken the truth. In this vast expanse of ice, there was definitely more than 1 time stone in this place. In just an hour, Shen Qinyu's surprised voice once again arrived. Apparently, she had picked up a second time stone. Shen Qinyu looked at Ning Cheng's back and wondered how many time stones this starry skies wanderer had picked up. She was walking behind him, so logically speaking, he should have picked up more than her. Ning Cheng indeed picked up more time stones compared to Shen Qinyu. Generally speaking, the time stones were the size of rice grains and peas, which he simply did not bother to pick up. The ones he picked up were at least the size of a broad bean, while most of them were the size of a longan. Some of them were even bigger than a fist. As for the time stones that Shen Qinyu picked up, Ning Cheng had deliberately let her pick them up. Otherwise, in this place, his spiritual consciousness could sweep through dozens of miles, without missing anything. A month later, Ning Cheng and Shen Qinyu picked up fewer and fewer time stones. However, whether it was Shen Qinyu or Ning Cheng, they both felt very satisfied. Shen Qinyu had picked up more than 20 time stones. She even suspected that the total number of time stones picked up by the cultivators who entered the time wilderness would not be as many as hers. Of course, this wanderer in front of her was an exception. Since she had picked up so many time stones, it would have been strange if this wanderer, walking in front of her, picked up less. Shen Qinyu looked up at Ning Cheng in front of her and immediately froze. Previously, she had been looking down for time stones and only occasionally looked at Ning Cheng to see if he was in her line of sight. However, she did not look at the surrounding scenery. At this moment, she felt shocked to discover that the place in front of her was no longer an ice field, but a forest that looked like a world of ice and snow. Shen Qinyu quickly took a few steps and arrived at Ning Cheng's side. However, before she could speak, she felt a warm sensation around her waist. Ning Cheng's hand had already wrapped around her waist, and she immediately flew up while sticking to the ground. Shen Qinyu instantly understood that this wanderer's spiritual consciousness was far stronger than hers. Although the two of them had picked up many time stones along the way, they had yet to encounter a time wheel. Apparently, it had something to do with this wanderer's spiritual consciousness. A celestial shatterer cultivator could use his spiritual consciousness to avoid a time wheel. Just how terrifying was this? From this, it could be seen that this wanderer's understanding of the laws of time was far stronger than her own. What a beautiful world! Shen Qinyu, who was put down by Ning Cheng, could not help but exclaim when she saw the world of ice and snow in front of her. The undulating ice hills looked crystal clear, while some of the ice trees formed various shapes. What the hell is this place? I've read a lot of information about the Sea of Twilight, but I've never seen such a place. Shen Qinyu muttered to herself. Ning Cheng and Shen Qinyu were different. His spiritual consciousness could penetrate into this world of ice and snow. As such, he could feel the desolation and danger of this world of ice and snow. If the place we entered is the Sea of Twilight, then I think this place might be the seabed of the Sea of Twilight. Let's go in and have a look. Maybe there is a way out of this place. Ning Cheng spoke with a deep voice. Even if Ning Cheng had not said anything, Shen Qinyu had already planned to go in and have a look. Ning Cheng took the first step into this icy world, and a terrifying bone-chilling cold immediately assaulted him. Even Ning Cheng had to fully circulate his celestial essence to barely resist this bone-chilling cold. After several years of tempering and gaining insights in the Sea of Twilight, Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness could now reach a range of 100 miles. Yet, he still felt that it was difficult to resist. Shen Qinyu, whose spiritual consciousness could only cover a radius of 1 foot, shivered even more. She could only take a single step before finding it hard to walk. Chapter 548. The powerful chill made her feel her body quickly turn cold. Even if her celestial essence continued to circulate within her body, it could not drive away this cold. This cold even froze her spiritual consciousness, not to mention continuing to walk. Shen Qinyu felt sure that if she did not retreat, she would turn into an icicle in the next moment. Ning Cheng's Sea of Consciousness was a starry sky's Sea of Consciousness. Yet, circulating his celestial essence to its fullest extent was already unbearable. How could he not understand Shen Qinyu's suffering? It was not that Shen Qinyu did not want to speak, but that she could not speak at all. Ning Cheng took a step to the side and directly placed Shen Qinyu on his back. The celestial river flame fused with his celestial essence, and his surroundings immediately erupted with crackling sounds. This sound felt as if the celestial river flame's celestial essence had melted the surrounding ice-cold space, giving off a cracking sound. Shen Qinyu felt a burst of warmth radiating from Ning Cheng's back, which quickly drove away the coldness in her body. It felt as if she had found a place to bask in the sun on a cold winter's day. This kind of warmth was something that could not be described with words. At this moment, she finally understood why the Sea of Twilight looked for people with flames to cooperate with. It turned out to be because of this place. This wanderer's celestial essence could actually resist the cold in this place. Maybe he also had a flame. While Shen Qinyu was lost in her thoughts, Ning Cheng's figure had already unfolded and was moving faster and faster. Half a day later, Ning Cheng stopped outside a huge round altar. A transfer array. Shen Qinyu also saw the thing on the round altar and exclaimed in shock. She then spoke with even more certainty, "Yes, that's a transfer array. It must be a transfer array." Ning Cheng nodded, "It's a transfer array. Sure enough, we can teleport out of this place." "Then, should we leave now?" Shen Qinyu asked eagerly. If she had the ability to survive, she might have wanted to search for the glimmer of dawn ice essence in this place to see if the legend was true. However, she was now completely dependent on Wanderer carrying her. Without Wanderer, she would have died a long time ago. After saying that, she seemed to have thought of something and spoke up again, "Senior apprentice brother Wanderer, I'll keep your time stone for you. I'll give it to you after we get out. I'm sure that striking order Heavenly Emperor would not notice it." Ning Cheng was just about to speak when a violent force swept over. Like a huge tornado, it swept him up. Ning Cheng, who was caught in this terrifying tornado, unexpectedly did not have even half a shred of resistance. Boom! Kacha! A violent rumble resounded from the bottom of his feet, and a several feet wide glacial canyon appeared outside the round altar with the teleportation formation. The violent rotational force directly wrapped around Ning Cheng, and pulled him into this glacial canyon. Ning Cheng did not have much time to think about it. Grabbing Shen Qinyu on his back, he stimulated his celestial essence and threw her out. At the same time, he crazily stimulated the twin wings of the heavenly clouds. In this place, he had such an experience. It was the same logic when he fell into that deep well. The only difference was that the deep well before was a kind of suction force that pulled him down, but here, it was a kind of whirlpool that pushed him in from the outside. Although Shen Qinyu was thrown out by Ning Cheng, she did not feel any resentment or sense of loss in her heart. On the contrary, her mind flashed with the scene of Wanderer carrying her on his back. Wanderer had carried her on his back as he walked through the depths of the Sea of Twilight for a few years. She had not even had the time to repay his kindness. But then she showed a self-deprecating smile. Everyone was selfish, not to mention that she and Wanderer were not even familiar with each other. This Starry Skies Wanderer was many times better than most of the people she had met in the past. Although in such a desperate situation, she did not blame him for throwing her away. She and this person did not know each other, yet he had already paid enough. Bang! Shen Qinyu's feet landed on the ground. What happened? When Shen Qinyu looked around, she found that she was standing in the center of the teleportation formation, not in the depths of the glacial canyon as she had imagined. At this moment, she understood that Wanderer had not thrown her away casually like she had thought. Instead, he wanted her to enter the teleportation formation first. At this moment, she only needed to take out a few Starry Skies crystals and put them into the groove of the teleportation formation to teleport away. No matter where she teleported to, it would be much better than falling into the unfathomable glacial canyon. Shen Qinyu touched the groove of the teleportation formation in a daze, forgetting to take out the Starry Skies crystals. She was an open-minded and rational person. Besides letting a stranger see her face in a situation where she knew she would die, she rarely did anything irrational. Even when she was caught by Ning Cheng without wearing any clothes, she did not show any anger on her face. Instead, she calmly asked why. Since birth, she had always done everything in an orderly manner. She would never do something she did not want to do because of impulsiveness. Impulsiveness would never belong to her. But now, Wanderer had thrown her into the teleportation formation after falling into the glacial canyon. At this moment, she felt an additional thing in her heart, that is, impulsiveness. She even wanted to enter the bottom of the valley to see if something had happened to Wanderer. Shen Qinyu carefully walked out of the teleportation formation, and the icy cold assaulted her, causing her to subconsciously shiver once again. However, she quickly felt that the icy cold here was not as horrifying as when she first came in. At least with the circulation of celestial essence, she would be safe and sound. Giving out a slight sigh of relief, Shen Qinyu walked to the edge of the cracked glacial canyon. She could not even see the end of the canyon with her eyes, let alone use her spiritual consciousness to explore it. She could only feel a chill coming from the deepest part of the canyon. Shen Qinyu shuddered. How could one survive falling into such a place? In such a place where one's spiritual consciousness was restricted, not to mention encountering a time wheel, even if there was no danger, one would not be able to climb up, right? After Ning Cheng sent Shen Qinyu away, he felt a lot more relaxed. However, in the face of the violent whirlpool that had wrapped around him, he still could not break free. These whirlpools were like a loophole, sucking him from the mouth of the funnel to the bottom. Bang! Not knowing for how long, the powerful whirlpool threw Ning Cheng to the ground, causing ice chips to splatter everywhere. The terrifying impact caused Ning Cheng to break several of his bones. Fortunately, Ning Cheng was a body-forging cultivator. Moreover, he was crazily wielding the twin wings of the heavenly clouds. As such, this kind of injury was not fatal to him. Under the circulation of celestial essence, the broken bones quickly healed. Ning Cheng immediately wielded the twin wings of the heavenly clouds, intending to fly out of the glacial canyon that had suddenly cracked open. However, he had just flown out a few feet when the violent whirlpool once again pulled him down. This kind of powerful force was completely different from the one at the bottom of the well. Moreover, the higher he went, the more powerful the whirlpool became. Ning Cheng's heart sank. If he could not force his way through this whirlpool, he would never reach the teleportation array. Taking out several medicinal pills to restore celestial essence, Ning Cheng once again wielded the twin wings of the heavenly clouds. This time, with the assistance of the medicinal pills, Ning Qing managed to rise a few dozen feet. However, the powerful force of the funnel whirlpool still pulled him down. Looking up at the glacial canyon, Ning Qing could not see the end of it. Ning Qing knew that it would be difficult to get out of this place. This time, he could feel it a lot more clearly. This whirlpool even contained the flow of time, and the higher he went, the more powerful it became. Ning Qing left the place where he fell with some loss. If he wanted to get out, he would have to find another way. As for Shen Qinyu, he had already thrown her into the teleportation array. As such, there should not be any problems. After walking for less than a few hundred meters, his spiritual consciousness swept across a ring. Ning Qing raised his hand and picked up the ring. However, the ring immediately collapsed, and everything inside turned into nothingness. Ning Qing sucked in a breath of cold air. He felt sure that someone else had fallen into this place. However, that person's bones had long since frozen into nothingness by the cold at the bottom of the valley. Moreover, that person's ring had also completely cracked under the cold because of the long time. Ning Qing had only touched it a little, yet the ring had already turned into flying ash. Because of this ring that had turned into nothingness, Ning Qing's heart became even more clouded. Cultivators who could reach this place were definitely not weaklings. Yet, those people ended up getting sucked into this time funnel whirlpool and ended up dying without even turning into ashes. Now that he had fallen in here, would there still be any chance of survival? Thinking of this, Ning Qing became even more careful. His spiritual consciousness started to probe around. He once again caught a faint flow of time, which caused Ning Qing to feel shocked. Was there a time wheel in this place? This canyon looked extremely narrow. If he encountered a time wheel, then he would have no other way but to enter the mysterious yellow bead. However, Ning Qing soon discovered that it was not a time wheel, but some stones that exuded a faint twilight glow. Unlike the irregular shape of the time stones, these stones were almost the same size. Each one was the size of a baby's fist. But what shocked Ning Qing even more was the beauty of these stones. It was just like the sunset glow that he and Shen Qinyu had faced in the past. It was simply too beautiful to behold. Ning Qing rushed to the side of the stones that exuded the twilight glow of time in just a few steps. He then raised his hand and grabbed one of them. The faint sorrow of the passing of time spread to the bottom of his heart. Combined with the twilight glow of the stone, Ning Qing couldn't help but sigh. So beautiful. He had never seen such a beautiful stone before. This stone gave off a sad feeling that reached the bottom of one's heart. It also gave off a feeling of despair in the face of dusk. This kind of beauty was different from other kinds of beauty. It had a hint of twilight. This was the twilight sand. Ning Qing did not need to ask others to know that this was the twilight sand. Twilight sand was hidden in this place. Even if he and Shen Qinyu stayed in the Sea of Twilight for decades, they most likely would not be able to find the twilight sand. Since the twilight sand had spread out, it meant that someone had come here before. Moreover, that person had also come out. After understanding this, Ning Qing's heart suddenly shook and his mood turned for the better. If others could come out, then he could also come out. Ning Qing quickly picked up the dozen or so twilight sands scattered on the frozen ground and carefully put them in a jade box. Whether he would use this thing in the future when crafting a long spear or not, it was still a treasure. The power of the maelstrom, which had weakened by countless times, spread to this place. Ning Qing looked up and finally understood why there were so many twilight sands in this place. These twilight sands were the result of the power of the time whirlpool. After a long time, it had gathered here. Chapter 549. Regardless of whether this sentence was correct or not, Ning Qing felt sure that it was the correct sentence for him at this stage. He had already touched the laws of time and comprehended the laws of time countless times. Although he did not have the ability to turn back time, he could stretch or compress it. His consciousness completely immersed in the madly swirling time funnel storm, day by day, month by month, year by year. When this spear of mine reaches the great accomplishment stage, I will be able to reverse the flow of time. At that time, I will call this spear the dusk of the stars. Ning Cheng looked at the raging maelstrom in the distance and spoke with a lofty tone. Shen Qinyu did not know if she could get teleported out after missing the time. However, even if she wanted to come back, she had to bring out the time stones she obtained. Now that she had so many time stones on her, she could not afford to die in this place. Ning Cheng and Shen Qinyu were different. He cultivated the mysterious yellow formless cultivation method, which allowed him to cultivate even if he had to dig through the ice steps. However, Ning Cheng did not cultivate. Instead, his spiritual consciousness fell on the raging time vortex storm. Although he was digging through the ice steps, he was thinking about a way to directly pass through the time vortex storm and fly out of it. She wiped her eyes and looked up at the ice steps extending above her head. She knew that she no longer had the ability to dig through the ice steps to the bottom. The time movement artifact in her ring indicated that she had been digging here for several years, which meant that the time wilderness was about to open for 10 years. A few days later, Shen Qinyu once again arrived at the teleportation array. Under her silver hair was a pair of extremely tired eyes. She looked at the unfathomably deep ice valley outside the teleportation array with some sadness in her eyes. She gave a deep sigh before taking out several celestial essence stones and placing them in the groove of the teleportation array. As time slowly passed, Ning Cheng slowly moved upwards. At this moment, a series of countless ice steps had already appeared under his feet. She waited next to the teleportation array for a few days and did not see anyone come up, so she started digging through the ice steps. In just half a year, she dug out hundreds of ice steps. These ice steps piled up one after another above her head and extended upwards like a ladder. Although he could turn back time, he did not have the ability to do so. Even elder brother Tsang Wei did not have the ability to turn back time. He had tried countless methods, but he still couldn't break out of this time vortex storm funnel. He repeatedly drove his twin wings of the heavenly clouds, again and again, over and over again. He even had to use his only knockoff celestial river battleship. Under this terrifying time maelstrom, the battleship would be completely useless, far inferior to his twin wings of the heavenly clouds. On this day, Ning Cheng suddenly stopped his mechanical action of digging the ice steps. He did not even take out the axe he had placed on the ice steps. Instead, he directly brought out his Nirvana spear and shot it out. If it was just an ordinary team member, she might be a little sad, but she wouldn't be like this. Over the past few years, he had long come into contact with the time law, but he had never been able to perfectly perform his time's sacred art. He had heard from his elder brother Tsang Wei that within the vast void plain, there were countless law worlds, and these law worlds contained a variety of laws. If he encountered a world that contained the laws of time, it was not impossible for him to shift time by countless years. Even if this spear consumed a lot of celestial essence and spiritual consciousness, Ning Cheng still couldn't help but roar out after putting away the spear. In fact, deep in her heart, she had already made a decision. If she dug to the bottom, and that wanderer fell, she would take his body away. Not knowing for how long, Shen Qinyu once again felt her body lighten. She knew that the time limit for the time wilderness had come to an end, and that she had been transferred out. Tsang Wei was right, however, Ning Cheng was wrong. He was wrong because his cultivation was too low. He had not even learned how to walk, yet he was already ready to run. Shen Qinyu only hoped that one day the ice steps she dug could be connected to the ice steps dug by Wanderer. However, she knew very well that after being swept away by the power of the violent maelstrom, it would be extremely difficult to come back up. Even a celestial river-class battleship would not be able to come up. Any cultivator who entered the time wilderness, if they remained in some mystic realm within the time wilderness during the transfer time, would not be transferred out. A white light flashed, and when Shen Qinyu landed on the ground again, she found that she had appeared on the periphery of the Sea of Twilight. In other words, people who were proficient in the laws of time could even reverse time. When time was compressed to the extreme, it would come to a standstill. Ning Cheng still felt excited in his heart. That's right, it came to a standstill. This standstill did not mean that time had stopped, however, it made all the surrounding senses feel that time had come to a standstill, or infinitely close to a standstill. One after another, ice steps extended under Ning Cheng's feet. At this time, Ning Cheng had already forgotten what he was doing, and even forgot that he wanted to fly out. Although she was a rational person, she was not a cold-blooded person. She did not know if this wanderer's real name was Wanderer or not, but the other party had fallen into this glacial canyon because of her. If one wanted to come out from the canyon, one would have to dig the ice steps. Ning Cheng remembered a movie that he had once watched. In the movie, there was a sentence, "Time is relative, it can be stretched or compressed, but it cannot be reversed." In other words, one could not go back in time. However, she soon became disappointed. The small public square built in the void did not contain the familiar figure she wanted to see. The maelstrom once again began to roll, and the storm hole once again raged. Even breathing could be felt. At this time, Ning Cheng once again appeared at the bottom of the glacial canyon where he had fallen. He had searched the entire canyon, but apart from finding a dozen pieces of twilight sand, he could not find any other exit. If he wanted to get out, there was no other way but to leave through this maelstrom funnel. From now on, this move will be called dusk. Ning Cheng, who had recovered a part of his celestial essence, shook the Nirvana spear in his hand and spoke to himself excitedly. Chi! A faint lightning flashed in the middle of the glacial canyon. After this spear shot out, everything around him seemed to have come to a standstill for a moment. The maelstrom stopped, the storm stopped, and even his breathing stopped. Shen Qinyu's spiritual consciousness immediately swept out. She longed for that familiar wanderer's shadow to suddenly appear in the crowd. At first, he did not think about digging some ice steps like Shen Qinyu did. However, the ice valley in this place was extremely hard. Even after spending an entire day, he still could not dig out a single step. Since she started cultivating from a very young age, she had never been so willful, not even once. But this time, she could not stop herself from digging out an ice step to rescue that wanderer. Shen Qinyu stood on the periphery of the Sea of Twilight and silently looked at the Sea of Twilight in the distance, not moving at all. A few years ago, she teamed up with a wanderer who had rescued her and entered the Sea of Twilight. A few years later, she came out alone. Ha, I understand. Ning Cheng's hands trembled as he held the Nirvana spear, tears streaming down his face. He finally understood, he finally touched the laws of time. After this spear thrust, Ning Cheng's sea of consciousness turned completely empty, and his celestial essence turned into nothingness. At this moment, if he had not clung tightly to the ice steps, he would have already fallen down. This spear had exhausted all of his celestial essence and even the spiritual consciousness within his starry sky's sea of consciousness. It was just like a movie reel. Although it was a series of stills, it made the senses feel as if the character was moving. A month later, Ning Cheng honestly took out the axe that Tang Yu had given him and started to dig one ice step after another. With a sigh, Shen Qinyu left a few lines of words on the ice steps before slowly climbing up. If she missed the opportunity to get out and continued to stay in this place, she would only be waiting for death. Shen Qinyu looked up, but she could no longer see the top of the canyon. Above her head, one by one, were the ice steps dug out. Shen Qinyu knew that this glacial canyon could not be reached by flying, one could only climb up step by step. If one wanted to climb up, there was no other way but to use the ice steps. With this move, the opponent would feel as if they were facing the sunset's twilight. Apart from despair and waiting for death, there was no other way. He finally had the third spear, dusk. Shen Qinyu stopped digging the ice steps. She seemed to have vaguely heard a burst of whistling sounds. Was it that wanderer? However, what she heard was not very clear. She immediately understood that it was just an illusion. Even if she could resist the cold in this place, after digging the ice steps for several years, her body had become extremely weak. His spear just now had clearly illustrated the stillness of time. He had compressed time to the extreme and then blasted out a move that contained the laws of time. This would become his most powerful killing move, and also his greatest trump card. While digging the first ice step, Shen Qinyu still shivered from the cold. She used the method taught by Ning Cheng to dispel the cold, while at the same time using her celestial essence to dig the ice steps. After a month, she unexpectedly adapted to the cold. Although it got colder the further down she went, she managed to resist it. Catcha! The Nirvana spear tore through the space in front of her, leaving behind a faint afterimage. Chapter 550. Wan Mingshu also looked around. She knew that Ning Cheng had fallen in the perpetual moon lake, but she still hoped that Ning Cheng could come out. In her mind, if not for her, Ning Cheng would not have fallen. He would not have even entered the time mystic realm. Apparently, the miracle did not happen, and Ning Cheng did not come out. Senior apprentice Sister Mingshu, I heard that Ning Cheng teamed up with you. Why don't I see him? A crisp voice asked. Shen Qinyu, who was still feeling sad, heard this sentence. She knew that it was Tang Yu, a genius with a high status in the striking order Starry Skies. Wan Mingshu gave out a sigh, it's my fault. I invited him to the perpetual moon lake, but the perpetual moon lake's time will shattered. He did not have time to come out. Tang Yu spoke with some regret, that's a pity. He was a good fellow. Shen Qinyu immediately recalled Ning Cheng. It turns out that Ning Cheng had fallen in the perpetual moon lake. No wonder he did not reply to her message. She then thought of Wanderer, a cultivator without a celestial wheel like Ning Cheng. One fell in the perpetual moon lake, while the other fell in the sea of twilight. Striking order Heavenly Emperor's figure turned from blurry to clear. Although only half of the cultivators came out, he still felt satisfied. He glanced at the cultivators on the void public square and spoke in a slow voice, welcome back to our Striking Order Starry Skies Genius Trial. Those who can stand here today are the geniuses of my Striking Order Starry Skies. You will be the future of my Striking Order Starry Skies and the pride of my Striking Order Starry Skies. My Striking Order Starry Skies will select a batch of outstanding geniuses to reward them. There is no limit to the number of winners. As long as you obtain a time stone, you will receive a reward from my Striking Order Starry Skies. The top 10 can represent my Striking Order Starry Skies to the Grand Culmination Starry Skies and participate in the upcoming Starry Skies Universe's Celestial Scryer Genius Finals. Every cultivator who obtained a time stone immediately came forward to hand over the time stones. No one dared to hide their time stones. Even if someone wanted to hide their time stones, when the sharp spiritual consciousness fell on them, they would quickly come forward and hand over their time stones. Although many cultivators entered the time wilderness, only a few managed to obtain time stones. Shen Qinyu did not hand over her time stones, instead, she came out to take these time stones back. In just an hour, all the cultivators with time stones in their possession were tabulated. A total of 31 cultivators managed to obtain time stones, including several cultivators who only managed to obtain a few rice grain-sized time stones. A heaven-seated cultivator stood in the void and read aloud, first place goes to Bright South Celestial Rivers Tsinfei, who obtained 4 time stones. Second place goes to Striking Order Starland Si Ko Hao, who obtained 3 time stones. Third place goes to Striking Order Starland's Tang Yu, who obtained 3 time stones. Looking at the time stones obtained by the top 10, whether it was in terms of size or quantity, Shen Qinyu could not help but give out a sigh. Ning Cheng didn't continue digging the ice steps. After comprehending the laws of time-related spirit technique, dusk, he sat still and continued to comprehend the essence of this spear. The more he comprehended, the more he understood that if he didn't have the starry sky sea of consciousness, even if he touched the surface of the laws of time, he wouldn't be able to bring out the dusk spear. The starry sky sea of consciousness was simply too powerful. Within the sea of twilight, one couldn't release one's spiritual consciousness. However, he could not only release it, but it could also reach a distance of 100 miles. Shen Qinyu originally couldn't release her spiritual consciousness. However, because he carried her on his back, she managed to comprehend his epiphany, allowing her to extend her spiritual consciousness to a distance of about 10 feet. Thinking of Shin Qinyu, Ning Cheng couldn't help but think of her perfect naked body and that beautiful face. Previously, when he had just comprehended the true meaning of dusk, Shin Qinyu's beauty had forcibly faded away under his shocking insights. Now that his third spear move had taken shape, he couldn't help but feel a little hot in his heart when he thought of that perfect body. Ning Cheng shook his head and forcibly put these thoughts aside before returning to the spear. After a long time, when Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness and celestial essence fully recovered, he once again brought out the Nirvana spear and shot out with it. This time, he felt the stillness around him even more clearly. No, it should be said that after he brought out the spear, everything around him turned still. At this moment, there was no sound, no movement, no breathing. Suddenly, Ning Cheng saw a drop of crystal-clear liquid in the still time vortex funnel. It seemed to be the condensation of all life, exuding a strong vitality and a faint glow of dawn. Within the time vortex storm, Ning Cheng unexpectedly saw a drop of something exuding a life force, which surprised Ning Cheng. The state he had entered a moment ago instantly disappeared. Ning Cheng could not fully display the dusk spirit technique before it dissipated. Ning Cheng did not feel any frustration because he failed to bring out the dusk spirit technique for the second time. Instead, he started to think about that drop of water that exuded a strong vitality. What was it? Or was it some kind of treasure? Because he had brought out the dusk spirit technique for the second time and failed midway, he did not lose too much of his celestial essence. After a short rest, Ning Cheng brought out the Nirvana spear for the third time. This time, Ning Cheng was prepared. The moment everything around him came to a standstill, he raised his hand and gathered the droplet of water that looked like the morning glow and put it into a jade bottle in his hand. A faint fragrance exuded from this droplet of water, mixed with powerful fluctuations of vitality. At the same time, an icy chill permeated out from this droplet of water. In addition to the vitality, the icy chill and the fragrance, this droplet of water also exuded a rich aura of dawn. It felt as if one was facing the rising sun, full of vitality. Ning Cheng just felt this rich aura of vitality and felt that a part of his lost lifespan had returned. This is the glimmer of dawn ice essence, Ning Cheng understood in an instant, causing him to feel pleasantly surprised. At this moment, he felt extremely grateful towards Shin Qinyu. If not for Shin Qinyu, he would not have known about the twilight sand or the glimmer of dawn ice essence. He did not know if Shin Qinyu had taken the transfer array or not, but if she did, then he would definitely send her a drop of the glimmer of dawn ice essence in the future as a token of gratitude. After carefully placing a restriction on the jade bottle, Ning Cheng began to gather his celestial essence and spiritual consciousness and continuously cast the dusk spirit technique. Then, he started to collect the glimmer of dawn ice essence from the still time vortex storm. No wonder Shin Qinyu said that this thing only existed in legends. If not for his superficial understanding of the laws of time and his dusk spirit technique, even if he knew about the existence of the glimmer of dawn ice essence in this time vortex storm, he would not have been able to obtain it. However, since this kind of thing had spread out, it meant that someone had obtained it through the laws of time. A month later, no matter how Ning Cheng cast the dusk spirit technique, he could no longer find the glimmer of dawn ice essence from the time vortex storm. Ning Cheng didn't know if he had collected all the glimmer of dawn ice essence or if his cultivation only allowed him to see this much. But for Ning Cheng, he felt very satisfied. In just 1 month, he obtained 9 drops of glimmer of dawn ice essence. After carefully putting the 9 drops of glimmer of dawn ice essence into the jade bottle and sealing it with a restriction, Ning Cheng continued to dig the ice steps. He was not in a hurry to restore his skin and hair. For him, his current appearance was the best mask-type weapon. Because of his superficial understanding of the laws of time, Ning Cheng's speed of digging the ice steps in the Time Glacier Canyon rapidly increased. In just 1 month, Ning Cheng felt that he had escaped from the range of the time vortex storm. When he could no longer feel the surrounding time vortex storm, Ning Cheng gave out a long sigh. Could he finally use the twin wings of the heavenly clouds? Ning Cheng looked up and was just about to wield the twin wings of the heavenly clouds when he was shocked to find that one ice step after another had appeared above his head. These ice steps were similar to the ice steps he had dug before, but from the top to the bottom. Who dug these ice steps? Was it Shen Qinyu? Ning Cheng quickly understood that these were indeed the ice steps dug by Shen Qinyu. His divine sense clearly saw that there was a line of words next to the ice step closest to him. Qing spent several years digging 7,542 ice steps in hopes of finding Brother Wanderer. However, 10 years have passed, and Qing returned in disappointment and frustration. Qing hereby swears that I will come back to this place again in my lifetime and take away Elder Brother Wanderer, regardless of life or death. Ning Qing felt a warm feeling in his heart. This Qing should be Shen Qinyu. Since Shen Qinyu had disguised herself as a cultivator from the Orchid Burrow Celestial River to enter the Time Wilderness, she most likely would not use her real name. However, after he sent her to the transfer array, not only did she not try to escape, but instead spent several years digging ice steps to find him. Shen Qinyu digging ice steps in this place was different from him. Although he had the twin wings of the heavenly clouds to save him, Shen Qinyu had no chance of survival in this place once she fell. One could say that Shen Qinyu had spent the past few years digging ice steps for him on the edge of life and death. Although she looked very rational, she was actually an impulsive woman. Ning Qing did not think that Shen Qinyu was a rational person. Shen Qinyu had been with him for a few years, and no matter how many times she was offended, she always maintained a calm tone and a plain expression, never once hysterical. However, this woman actually spent several years, risking the danger of falling to her death at any time, to dig ice steps in this Time Ice Valley to save him. If this was not impulsive, then what was? Ning Qing knew that Shen Qinyu would not be able to return to this place no matter how much she vowed. With Shen Qinyu's cultivation, she would definitely advance to the Celestial Bridge realm after returning. If Celestial Bridge cultivators could enter the Time Wilderness, then why didn't any Celestial Bridge cultivators come this time? Shen Qinyu definitely did not think of this. Thinking of this, Ning Qing gave up on the idea of flying up and sped up his hands. In just a short time, he dug out more than a dozen ice steps and connected them to Shen Qinyu's ice steps. Ning Qing took out a sword artifact and added a sentence to Shen Qinyu's message, "Thank you for the ice steps, it saved me a few years of time. I have already dug out the rest of the path. From now on, this path will be known as the Ladder of Life. Maybe one day, someone will be able to set foot on the ice steps we dug, wanderers. By the way, you look really beautiful without clothes. That's all, I'll have to pay my respects." Although trapped for several years, Ning Qing had obtained Twilight Sand and Glimmers of Dawn Ice Essence. Most importantly, he had comprehended the Dusk spiritual technique, which made him feel very happy. Feeling happy, coupled with knowing that Shen Qinyu would not come here again, his message turned into a mess. Chapter 551. Once again standing outside the round altar's teleportation array, Ning Qing sighed in his heart. He did not expect that once he fell, it would take him a few years to climb back up. Ning Qing guessed that 10 years should have passed by now. Most likely, he was still inside the Sea of Twilight. Regardless of whether he would be teleported out or not, Ning Qing did not want to stay in this damned place. Taking off his Dao artifact mask, Ning Qing gave out a sigh. He did not need to wear a mask at all, instead, he looked like an old man. If not for an acquaintance, most people would not have thought that he was Ning Qing even if they saw him. After changing his aura, Ning Qing carefully placed the miniature world ring into the 5 elements array formation inside the mysterious yellow bead before stepping onto the teleportation array. With a flash of spatial light, Ning Qing landed on the periphery of the Sea of Twilight. Ning Qing had just breathed a sigh of relief, but before he could check his surroundings, another flash of white light appeared. When his feet touched the ground, he found himself in the middle of a starry sky. There was not a single person around. Ning Qing took a glance and realized that this was the place where he had entered the Time Wilderness. He did not expect that he would still be teleported out despite the delay. Ning Qing did not stay in this place for long. He quickly brought out his celestial river battleship and left at the fastest speed. A few days later, Ning Cheng once again entered Striking Order Star Land and arrived at Lucky Heaven City. The reason why he came here again was to go to Grand Culmination Starry Skies. Compared to 10 years ago, Lucky Heaven City seemed to have a lot fewer people. Ning Cheng, an old celestial shatterer cultivator, would not attract any attention in this place. Ning Cheng did not look for a rest stop and went directly to Lucky Heaven City's Striking Order Starry Skies Trade Union. Friend, do you want to inquire about information, or do you want to team up and make a fortune? Or is it something else? I can help you with it. Ning Cheng had not yet entered the trade union when a small voice fell into his ears. Ning Cheng's gaze swept over and saw a very unremarkable celestial novice middle-aged man sitting not far from the wall. The celestial novice middle-aged man saw Ning Cheng's gaze sweeping over and waved his hand, indicating that he was the one who sent the voice. Ning Cheng walked over. Lucky Heaven City was a safe place, and there was absolutely no chance of a sneak attack. Moreover, the other party was just a celestial novice cultivator, which he did not care about. Ning Cheng understood the words spoken by this middle-aged celestial novice cultivator. This was equivalent to a black intermediary, fishing for some business outside the guild and surviving in the cracks. However, Ning Cheng did not care about it. He wanted to go to Grand Culmination Starry Skies, so it would not be a good idea to inquire about information through the guild. It's just that he did not know many people here. This celestial novice cultivator on seeing Ning Cheng come over felt even more happy and was about to stand up. Ning Cheng waved his hand, not waiting for him to stand up. He took the initiative to sit down not far from him, and asked, "What you just said, can you do it here?" The middle-aged man immediately affirmed, "Of course. Moreover, our fees here are more reasonable than the guild's, and the duration is shorter. Do you know that you have to ask a question to enter the guild and ask the guild to do something for you? Other than waiting, what else can you do?" That's right, the amount of star coins he received was quite a lot. "Friend, we are much more reliable than the guild." Ning Cheng asked in a non-committal manner, "Do you know what happened after the time wilderness ended?" "Because I just arrived at Lucky Heaven City, I haven't had the time to inquire about a lot of information, so I'm preparing to go to the guild." The middle-aged man showed a smile and did not answer Ning Cheng's question. Instead, he asked, "Did you go to the guild just to inquire about this information?" Ning Cheng understood the meaning of the other party and took out 200 green coins and put it in the man's hand without answering his question. The middle-aged man initially thought that Ning Cheng would not be able to get much profit out of it. He did not expect that Ning Cheng would give him 200 green coins just for asking a question. He did not hesitate to put away the 200 green coins and carefully spoke. The time wilderness trial ended more than a month ago, and the Heavenly Emperor selected the top 10 to enter the Grand Culmination Starry Skies for the finals. The top 10 are. Ning Cheng stopped the middle-aged man and asked, "When will they leave?" "How do they leave?" "Naturally, they will take a Starry Sky class battleship. I heard that they would have to pass through the void of several interfaces to reach the Grand Culmination Starry Skies, which is not a simple matter. This time, many people are going to the Grand Culmination Starry Skies. In addition to the many merchants and celestial river kings, I heard that our Heavenly Emperor will also be going in person. As for when they will leave, I don't know yet." The middle-aged man answered in a very detailed manner. Ning Cheng sighed. "I wanted to go to the Grand Culmination Starry Skies, but it looks like it would be difficult to get a ticket." "What? You want to go to the Grand Culmination Starry Skies?" The middle-aged celestial novice cultivator felt shocked by Ning Cheng's words. It did not matter. It would not be easy for a celestial shatterer cultivator to go to the Grand Culmination Starry Skies. "That's right, I want to go to the Grand Culmination Starry Skies. That's why I want to go to the guild. Can you do it?" "Therefore, even if you called me here, it would be useless." Ning Cheng spoke and stood up. The middle-aged celestial novice cultivator quickly stood up and spoke through clenched teeth, "Senior, if you really want to go to the Grand Culmination Starry Skies, we do have a way. It's just that I need to report it, and the price might not be low." Moreover, you need to pay me 100,000 green coins as a reporting fee in advance. If you don't believe me, you can come with me. Feeling that Ning Cheng was not an ordinary celestial shatterer cultivator, this celestial novice cultivator's tone turned respectful. Ning Cheng waved his hand and directly placed a stack of green coins in the hands of the middle-aged celestial novice cultivator. This is 100,000 green coins. As long as you can help me get a ticket to the grand culmination starry skies, what are some celestial coins? Even if you lie to me, I have a way to pull you out. The middle-aged celestial novice cultivator excitedly grabbed the 100,000 green coins. Ning Cheng's generosity was beyond his expectations. Without waiting for Ning Cheng to say anything else, he patted his chest and guaranteed, "Senior, you can rest assured that I will definitely give you an answer within 3 days. This is my communication talisman. If there is any news, I will send a message to Senior." "Okay, then I will wait for you for 3 days. If you can send me a message within 3 days, then we will meet here." After Ning Cheng finished, he did not wait for the celestial novice cultivator to answer and turned around to leave, leaving behind the excited celestial novice cultivator. Ning Cheng had not gone far, when he felt a spiritual consciousness staring at him. Moreover, this spiritual consciousness was also repeatedly probing him, which made Ning Cheng feel very puzzled in his heart. He had 2 enemies in the Lucky Heaven City, but whether it was Zhao Yanxiang or Lu Pingchuan, it was impossible for them to recognize him. Besides, he had fallen in the perpetual moon lake, which Zhao Yanxiang had personally witnessed. Since Zhao Yanxiang knew about it, then Lu Pingchuan definitely knew about it as well. If that was the case, then who would have any killing intent towards him? Ning Cheng did not use his spiritual consciousness to sweep back. His strength was still too low, and he did not want to alert the enemy in Lucky Heaven City. Just as Ning Cheng was anxiously trying to think of a way, a figure quickly rushed in front of him, while a crisp voice emerged, "Wait." At this moment, Ning Cheng immediately recognized who this person was. It was the woman named Yuan. This woman's cousin, her dual cultivation Dao companion, Yui Feng, had died at his hands. When this woman escaped, Shen Qinyu had explained to him that the Yu clan was very powerful in the Dao of talismans and would not let him go so easily. Ning Cheng did not expect this woman to come to his doors so quickly, however, he did not know how she recognized him. In any case, Ning Cheng did not want to meet this woman. He quickly circled around her and quickened his pace. "You stop." Seeing Ning Cheng ignoring her, Yuan shouted out even louder and sped up to catch up with him. Ning Cheng secretly cursed at his bad luck. He had just come out when he encountered such a thing. Once he started fighting with this woman, even people who were not familiar with him might recognize him as Ning Cheng. He had clearly died in the perpetual moon lake, yet now he appeared in Lucky Heaven City. It would be strange if he did not have any secrets on him. As a cultivator who came out a month or 2 late, Heavenly Emperor Man Luan would definitely talk to him alone. Seeing Yuan chasing after him, Ning Cheng knew that today's matter would not end well. He guessed that Yuan did not recognize him at first, but Ning Cheng knew that since the other party already suspected him, not recognizing him would not make any difference. Thinking of this, Ning Cheng did not hesitate to rush out of Lucky Heaven City. Since there was no way to settle this peacefully, then he would silence her. Ning Cheng had his own principles, however, no matter who wanted his life, he would not hesitate to fight back. Seeing Ning Cheng leave the city, Yuan raised her hand and sent out a message before following him out. After Ning Cheng left Lucky Heaven City, he directly brought out the Celestial River battleship. If this woman dared to chase after him alone, then she could not blame him for being impolite. Yuan did not continue to chase after Ning Cheng, she did not dare to chase after Ning Cheng alone. In just a few breaths, a gray shadow landed beside Yuan. "Big brother Huangfu, why are you alone? Where's Uncle Shang?" Yuan asked anxiously when she saw the man wearing a gray cultivator's robe. The cultivator smiled, "I saw Sister Wan's urgent message and thought that something bad had happened, so I rushed over." "What happened? Why did you ask Uncle Shang to come over?" Yuan spoke up anxiously, "Big brother Huangfu, I just saw a white-haired cultivator." His back and hair look very similar to that beast in the Time Wilderness. Is that the fellow who killed Yifeng? The male cultivator, addressed as Big Brother Huangfu by Yuan, asked anxiously with a change in expression. Yuan quickly spoke up, I suspect that the person just now was him, otherwise, he would not have run away the moment he saw me. Then what are we waiting for? Let's catch up and kill him. The male cultivator raised his hand and brought out a Celestial River-class battleship, however, the grade of this battleship was much better than Ning Cheng's. Yuan spoke up anxiously, but there are only 2 of us. Ha! The male cultivator laughed, didn't you say that he only had a Celestial Shatterer cultivation last time? A Celestial Shatterer cultivation is not something that I, Yu Huangfu, would put in my eyes. Yuan felt anxious about Ning Cheng's escape. Thinking of the fact that Big Brother Huangfu was Yu Clan's Celestial Scryer Premier Genius, someone many times stronger than Yu Yifeng, she nodded and spoke, okay, then let's hurry over. It was no wonder that Yu Huangfu dared to speak such words. With his half-step Celestial Bridge cultivation, he could be considered as the premier person under the Celestial River realm. He was the most important target of cultivation for the Yu Clan. He did not even put Striking Order Starry Sky's premier genius, Xin Fei, in his eyes. In his opinion, Ning Cheng only had a trivial Celestial Shatterer cultivation. He did not even need to use his full strength to kill him. Chapter 552. After half a day, Ning Cheng finally stopped. He could see that even if he continued to use the Celestial River-class battleship, he would not be able to escape. The quality of the battleship chasing after him was much better than his own. Secondly, he wanted to see if he could kill the person chasing after him. If he could, he would not hesitate. If he really couldn't kill it, then he would immediately leave Striking Order Star Land and go to another Celestial River. Ning Cheng had heard from Shin Qinyu that the Yu clan was a talisman aristocratic family, which enjoyed the support of Striking Order Heavenly Emperor in the Striking Order Starland. Once he was exposed, staying here wouldn't do him any good. For such a famous Starry Sky family, he would try his best not to provoke them. No wonder you dared to kill my Yu clan's people. You really have guts. Yu Huangfu did not expect that Ning Cheng would dare to stop and wait for him. Moreover, Ning Cheng truly was just a Celestial Shatterer cultivator. Ning Cheng looked at Yu Huangfu putting away the Celestial River-class battleship and spoke up with a calm tone, is your Yu clan that great? However, your Celestial River-class battleship looks good. It doesn't look like a knockoff. Although he did not care about it on the surface, Ning Cheng's mind was firmly locked onto Yu Huangfu. Yu Huangfu was tall and slender, even taller than him. His eyes were filled with disdain and killing intent. With the cultivation of Full Circle Celestial Gatherer Realm, the Celestial Wheel seemed to be showing signs of fusing, indicating that he should be a half-step into the Celestial Bridge Realm. If it was before entering the Sea of Twilight, Ning Cheng felt sure that he would not be a match for Yu Huangfu. At this time, he would have to run as far as he could. Now that he had comprehended the Dusk Spirit technique, and his domain had merged with the Celestial River, he no longer felt afraid of Yu Huangfu. As for Yuan, Ning Cheng simply did not put her in his eyes. Not bad. Unfortunately, you can only look at it once. That's because you've met me, Yu Huangfu. Yu Huangfu sneered, then gave Yuan a meaningful glance. He wanted Yuan to help him block Ning Cheng's escape route. As he spoke the last word, Yu Huangfu's imposing aura suddenly rose up, just like a huge millstone crushing down on Ning Cheng. The surrounding space formed a vortex under this imposing aura, while Ning Cheng found himself at the center of this vortex. Just as this maelstrom's imposing aura crushed down on Ning Cheng, 2 more silver-colored talismans appeared in Yu Huangfu's hands. It was the first time for Ning Cheng to see someone using a talisman as a magical weapon. Other people's talismans were disposable, or something that could only be used once. However, this Yu family cultivator had actually refined his own magic treasure into the shape of a talisman. Ning Cheng was sure that the talisman in his hands was not a one-time use item, but a real magical weapon. With the pressure of the imposing aura from the whirlpool, Ning Cheng even found it difficult to breathe. What a powerful celestial gatherer cultivator. Ning Qing felt sure that this was the most powerful celestial gatherer cultivator he had ever seen. Moreover, the aura of this violent whirlpool domain had allowed the opponent to occupy a superior position as soon as he arrived. Ning Qing secretly felt shocked in his heart. The vast starry skies truly were filled with powerhouses. In the past, he wouldn't have been able to resist such a maelstrom domain. Sure enough, one had to meet all kinds of experts to see all kinds of killer moves. Just as Yu Huangfu's maelstrom domain crazily rolled up, Ning Cheng's celestial river fusion domain also fully stretched out at this moment. Although his cultivation wasn't as high as Yu Huangfu's, his sea of consciousness was many times stronger than Yu Huangfu's. When Yu Huangfu's maelstrom domain first stretched out, it gave off a crushing imposing aura. However, after Ning Cheng's celestial river domain stretched out, his domain immediately slowed down. Even the crazily rotating imposing aura of the maelstrom domain ended up suppressed. Bursts of ka-ka sounds erupted from the imposing aura of the maelstrom domain, just like dry bamboo thrown into a bonfire. Yu Huangfu's imposing aura rose once again, and he spoke with an ice-cold tone, "No wonder you're so arrogant. You even have such a powerful domain. Even if your domain is more powerful, so what if you met me, Yu Huangfu? Die for me." As he spoke, the talisman weapon in his hand transformed into 2 rays of light. One of the rays of light erupted with a thunderous explosion, as if it had exploded from the bottom of one's heart. In an instant, endless lightning arcs came crashing down. These lightning arcs seemed to have eyes and shot towards Ning Cheng without wasting even the slightest bit of them. The other ray of light transformed into a pale blue light not much bigger than an embroidery needle. This pale blue light, mixed with the endless lightning arcs, stabbed towards Ning Cheng. If it were a cultivator with a weaker spiritual consciousness, they would not be able to detect it at all. If the endless lightning arcs had to tear apart Ning Cheng's celestial river domain to pose a threat to Ning Cheng, then this embroidery needle mixed with the lightning arcs did not show even half a shred of resistance. It directly broke through Ning Cheng's celestial river domain and stabbed towards Ning Cheng's dantian. "Want to sneak up on me? Dream on." Ning Cheng laughed. He opened his hand, and the treasured thunder spear appeared in his hand. At the same time, he shot out a spear. Ning Cheng's spear did not care about the endless lightning arcs but directly shot towards the embroidery needle formed from the talisman. Yu Huangfu's face turned ugly. He was a half-step celestial bridge cultivator. Did he need to sneak up on a celestial shatterer cultivator to kill a celestial shatterer cultivator? The offensive form of his talisman could transform into an embroidery needle, which had nothing to do with sneak attacks. When the treasured thunder spear had just stabbed out, it seemed to contain lightning arcs lingering around it. However, after the spear shot out, it turned into a fiery pattern that was invisible to the naked eye. These fiery patterns seemed to be able to burn through the surrounding space, while the murderous intent of the spear grew stronger and stronger. Boom! The treasured thunder spear split apart the imposing aura of Yu Huangfu's maelstrom domain and directly collided with the embroidery needle formed from his talisman artifact, causing bursts of fiery patterns to erupt. The space, which originally contained only lightning arcs, instantly filled with these fiery patterns, looking just like fireworks blooming in the sky. Ning Cheng's nothingness flame pattern spear blasted away the embroidery needle, but the fiery patterns of the nothingness flame pattern spear still did not disappear. Instead, it directly broke through the 2 people's domains and shot towards Yuan. Yuan hurriedly brought out a shield to block it. Even so, she still ended up in a sorry state. Yu Huangfu stared at Ning Cheng in shock. He was not shocked that Ning Cheng's spear broke his talisman phantom, nor that Ning Cheng's powerful celestial river domain blocked his maelstrom's killing power. He was not shocked that Ning Cheng's nothingness flame pattern spear was even more powerful than his talisman phantom. What shocked him was that Ning Cheng did not care about the other talisman that shot out endless lightning arcs. What was going on here? Was he courting death? Even a cultivator in the celestial bridge realm would not dare to ignore such a terrifying lightning arc attack. Whether Ning Cheng was courting death or not, he quickly understood. Although the endless lightning arcs bombarded Ning Cheng's body, Ning Cheng not only did not die, but instead gave a loud roar, causing his imposing aura to soar once again. At the same time, the treasured thunder spear in his hand started to glow with lightning. Your main spiritual root turns out to be a thunder spiritual root. Yu Huangfu cried out in shock. Cultivators with thunder spiritual roots were always in short supply, and it was even easier for them to enter a sect. Moreover, once a cultivator with such a spiritual root reached a certain level of cultivation, their strength would turn out to be much stronger compared to cultivators with other spiritual roots. Ning Cheng, in the face of his illusionary thunder talisman artifact, remained indifferent. Apart from his slightly messy hair and robes, he could even raise his imposing aura. Apparently, he was a fellow with a thunder spiritual root. Sister Wan, let's go together. Yu Huangfu no longer dared to look down on Ning Cheng. After saying that, he raised his hand, and a huge rusty copper coin suspended over his head. Ning Cheng instantly caught a familiar aura, causing Ning Cheng to stare at the rusty copper coin with wide eyes. Suddenly, he screamed out, "5 elements treasure fall copper coin." Yu Huangfu laughed, "You're not blind, ah. You can even recognize that this is the 5 elements treasure fall copper coin." Ning Cheng felt cold all over, and could not even speak. At this moment, he felt as if he had been nailed to the ground. He had given the 5 elements treasure fall copper coin to his wife, Shi Qianghua. How could it appear here? Why? Why? After Yuan heard Yu Huangfu's words, she immediately brought out a sword artifact in her hand. She knew that her cultivation was far from Ning Cheng's, and she did not expect to kill Ning Cheng. She just wanted to interfere with Ning Cheng and help Yu Huangfu. Poof! What shocked Yuan the most was that her sword artifact actually tore through Ning Cheng's celestial river domain and directly pierced through Ning Cheng's shoulder. Ah! Yuan looked at the result of her battle in surprise. She had never thought that her sword would have such an effect. If she had known about it earlier, she would have directly pierced through Ning Cheng's glabella. Yu Huangfu also did not expect that Yuan would be able to injure Ning Cheng with just one move, causing him to feel equally happy in his heart. No matter what happened, now was the best time to kill Ning Cheng. At this moment, Ning Cheng's imposing aura suddenly skyrocketed. He once again gave out a tearing roar, while the treasured thunder spear in his hand turned into an invisible spear mark. This spear mark seemed to have come from the distant horizon, but it directly tore through the horizon and the space in front of him. There was simply no way to resist it. The powerful murderous aura of the spear intent completely bound Yuan. Yuan could not even move a muscle. She could only look at the spear's shadow approaching from afar in horror. "Save me!" Yuan screamed out, however, she could not even utter a single sound. The power of this spear had swept up all the killing power from the horizon to the front. This killing power had long since suppressed her mind. Poof! A mist of blood spurted out. Yuan looked at the shocked Yu Huangfu not far away in despair before collapsing to the ground. Yu Huangfu truly felt shocked. He had felt a powerful killing intent from Ning Cheng's spear that had killed Yuan, something he had never seen before. He had also felt a terrifying killing power from the spear intent. When that spear had blasted out, he had actually wanted to escape in a crazed manner. It was not until the spear had killed Yuan that this thought of his weakened. Such a powerful spear intent. Yu Huangfu stared at Ning Cheng in shock. He no longer had that sense of superiority that he had a moment ago. "Speak, where did you get the 5 elements treasure fall copper coin? If you don't explain it clearly, I will make sure that not even an ant remains of your Yu clan remains." Ning Cheng completely ignored the sword piercing through his body and walked towards Yu Huangfu step by step. His voice was hoarse, and even his eyes had turned blood red. Yu Huangfu subconsciously took a few steps back and was just about to answer when he understood why he should answer. The other party was just a celestial shatterer cultivator, while he had the treasure fall copper coin and an endless supply of talismans. Why should he fear him? Chapter 553. As Ning Cheng approached step by step, the powerful killing intent rolled over. The imposing maelstrom around Yu Huangfu began to suppress Ning Cheng's domain. Yu Huangfu could no longer stand the violent aura and brought out the 5 elements treasure fall copper coin. Another handful of talismans were thrown out, and the surroundings were instantly filled with countless talismans that were on the verge of exploding. The 5 elements treasure fall copper coin turned into a huge coin with a square hole several feet in radius and came crashing down. At the same time, his 2 talisman weapons turned into 2 sharp blades that cut through Ning Cheng's celestial river domain. Ning Cheng completely ignored the violent 3-dimensional attack. His eyes filled with hostility at this moment, and he even threw away the treasured thunder spear in his hand. Yu Huangfu looked at Ning Cheng's actions in shock. He did not know what Ning Cheng wanted to do. Even a celestial bridge expert could not ignore such an attack. However, this celestial shatterer cultivator in front of him not only did not resist with all his strength, but instead threw away the weapon in his hand. What did this mean? If the other party wanted to escape, it was even more unlikely. Cultivators who wanted to escape would never approach him step by step with bloodshot eyes, nor would they abandon their magic treasures. However, no matter what this celestial shatterer cultivator wanted to do, facing such an attack, he would die without a doubt. If he resisted such an attack, he might have a chance to survive. However, this crazy fellow even forgot to resist. If not courting death, then what was it? Yu Huangfu had just thought of this when he saw Ning Cheng clenching his fists and punching out. Yu Huangfu felt ecstatic in his heart. This fellow had truly gone mad. He felt sure that by the time Ning Cheng punched out, he would have already killed Ning Cheng countless times over. Not to mention anything else, just the sharp blades formed from his talismans would have already severely injured Ning Cheng. Coupled with so many talismans, it would be strange if Ning Cheng did not die. Although he did not enjoy torturing the other party, he did not care about it anymore. This celestial shatterer cultivator gave him a terrifying feeling. He would rather fight against a celestial bridge cultivator and then escape than fight against this celestial shatterer cultivator in front of him. Poof! Not contrary to Yu Huangfu's expectations, the sharp blades formed from his talismans directly cut through Ning Cheng's arm, instantly cutting off one of Ning Cheng's arms. Even so, Ning Cheng was still not aware of it. Seeing that the second talisman had turned into a sharp blade and was about to cut Ning Cheng in half, Yu Huangfu's eyes flashed with a trace of ferocity. This fellow had unexpectedly turned crazy while fighting with him, otherwise, it would have been somewhat troublesome to deal with this celestial shatterer cultivator. At this time, Yu Huangfu suddenly saw Ning Cheng's fist explode into his dantian. What's going on? Why hadn't the other party been killed by his shape-shifting talisman? Something's not right. Why is everything still? His 5 elemental treasure fall copper coin stopped moving. The endless talismans also stopped moving. Some of the talismans even cracked in half. His second talisman blade that was about to reach his opponent's waist also stopped moving. Even his breathing stopped. What was going on? No, there were still 2 things that had not stopped. His consciousness had not stopped, and his opponent's fist had not stopped. Laws of time. Yu Huangfu instantly understood what was going on. He screamed madly in his heart, and his eyes revealed extreme fear. For a celestial shatterer cultivator to touch the surface of the laws of time, what did it mean? Crazy, this world had gone crazy. No, this was definitely not true. This was definitely a dream. The laws of time, even among the powerhouses in the eternal realm, he had never heard of anyone who could touch the laws of time. Yu Huangfu screamed crazily, however, his voice was completely still. He could not even utter a single word. Bang! Ning Cheng's fist slammed into Yu Huangfu's dantian. However, it did not blow Yu Huangfu into pieces, nor did it blow Yu Huangfu away. There was only one bang before everything came to life again. However, the shape-shifting talisman blade that was about to reach Ning Cheng's waist instantly reverted to a talisman weapon and fell to the ground. The 5 elemental treasure fall copper coin, which was still hovering in the air, also fell powerlessly to the ground. Yu Huangfu also heard a burst of subtle noises. His eyes suddenly turned as gloomy as dead ashes. He heard the sound of his dantian shattering, followed by the sound of his meridians breaking apart one after another. Then, he heard the sound of his sea of consciousness collapsing. It's over. His entire life is over. Even if his dantian disappeared, it could still be restored. Even if his meridians broke, it could still be repaired. But if his sea of consciousness disappeared, then he would truly have nothing left. I'm going to kill you. Yu Huangfu screamed out before slumping to the ground. Boom 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 boom. Only at this moment did the half-activated talismans explode. Ning Qing stood motionless amidst the exploding talismans. He let the violent talismans tear apart his messy white hair and robes into nothingness. He let the exploding talismans shoot out blade lights that brought out a bloody mist over his body. Even the most violent explosion of talismans would eventually pass. Yu Huangfu sat on the ground and looked at Ning Qing, who stood motionless amidst the exploding talismans, in horror. After the other party shattered his meridians, dantian, and sea of consciousness with a single punch, he could have easily avoided these talismans. However, he actually let these talismans explode on his body without moving. If it were an ordinary celestial shatterer cultivator, even if only a small portion of these talismans exploded, they would have already died. However, apart from the severe physical injuries, he did not show any abnormalities. This person not only had a superficial understanding of the laws of time at the celestial shatterer realm, but he also turned out to be a body-forging cultivator with a god body. Heavens, how could such a terrifying cultivator exist within the striking order starry skies? Where the hell did this person come from? Ning Qing completely ignored the fact that one of his arms had already been cut off, as he slowly walked towards Yu Huangfu, who was sitting paralyzed on the ground, and spoke one word at a time. Where did you get your 5 elements treasure fall copper coin? Speak. Dream on, this Grandpa Huangfu, even if I die, I would never tell trash like you about it. Just give up. Yu Huangfu screamed. He was already crippled, what else did he have to fear? Ning Qing did not ask any more and raised his hand and placed it on Yu Huangfu's glabella. Ning Qing had never searched the soul, but he had experienced several battles with people's sea of consciousness. With his powerful starry skies sea of consciousness, even if he had never done such a thing, it was still much more powerful than the average cultivator. You will die a horrible death. Yu Huangfu screamed in madness. He quickly understood Ning Qing's meaning. Ning Qing held his life essence in his hand and repeatedly searched it. If Ning Qing was proficient in soul searching, then it would have been fine. However, the other party was not proficient in soul searching, which caused his life essence to scatter, causing him endless pain. I beg you, don't search, I'll tell you everything. Yu Huangfu finally couldn't help but beg for mercy. This kind of terrible pain, he simply could not bear it. It was the same as burning one's soul. The other party's powerful spiritual consciousness also contained a terrifying soul flame. However, Ning Qing acted as if he did not hear Yu Huangfu's screams and continued to tear apart Yu Huangfu's life essence. Yu Huangfu's begging voice grew softer and softer before finally dissipating. Thump. The moment Ning Qing loosened his hand, Yu Huangfu fell to the ground, his spiritual soul extinguished. Ning Qing stood in front of Yu Huangfu's corpse, trembling. Yu Huangfu, the premier genius of bright South Celestial River's Dai Yuan Stars Yu Clan. Yu Clan was a talisman clan within striking order Starry Skies and had a very high status. More than a decade ago, a cultivator named Yu Yangji came to Dai Yuan Star. This person was also from the Talisman Aristocratic Clan, a low-level true cultivation planet called Ink Essence Stars Qin Wu City. He was the one who brought the 5 elements treasure fall copper coin. After this person found the Yu Clan on Dai Yuan Star, the Yu Clan exposed the existence of the 5 elements treasure fall copper coin and gave it to the Yu Clan's premier genius, Yu Huangfu. In order not to disappoint this Yu Clan's descendant named Yu Yangji, the Yu Clan also took away Yu Yangji when they moved away. The Yu Clan's development in striking order Starry Skies had reached its limit. This time, Yu Huangfu's father, Yu Changtai, had become a Tier 7 Talisman Emperor. A talisman emperor was not something that could be achieved easily. Because Yu Changtai became a talisman emperor, the Yu clan received an invitation from Grand Culmination Starry Skies. Coupled with the slow development of the Yu clan in striking order Starry Skies, the Yu clan decided to withdraw from Dai Yuan Star and move to Grand Culmination Starry Skies. Although Striking Order Heavenly Emperor did not want the Yu clan to leave, Striking Order Heavenly Emperor did not have the guts to bargain with Grand Culmination Starry Skies. The Yu clan had only moved to Grand Culmination Starry Skies in recent years. Moreover, because it was not easy to reach Grand Culmination Starry Skies, some of the Yu clan's people temporarily stayed in Striking Order Starland's Lucky Heaven City. Yu Huangfu, who wanted to participate in the Time Wilderness, also decided to stay in Lucky Heaven City. Now that the Time Wilderness had closed, he also planned to head to Grand Culmination Starry Skies. Qianghua! Ning Qing screamed out frantically. At this moment, he felt as if his entire soul was about to leave his body. That Yu Yangji had taken the 5 elements treasure fall copper coin to the starry skies. What about his Qianghua? 2 lines of ice-cold tears turned into blood, and a violent aura surged within Ning Cheng's heart. Even if he stood still, he could not stop his body from trembling uncontrollably. This kind of torment made him want to tear open the void interface and head to Incandescent Star's Qin Wu City. For the first time, he felt endless regret. He regretted letting Qianghua leave back in the sifting orchid star. The violent aura surging within his body grew stronger and stronger, and Ning Cheng's body trembled more and more violently. It felt as if his entire body would explode in the next moment. Any cultivator in such a situation would know that it was a precursor to cultivation deviation. However, Ning Cheng remained unaware of it, while his heart was tormented. In addition to regret, he also felt hatred. He hated the fact that his cultivation was too low and could not tear open the void interface. At this moment, he could not see anything at all. In my eyes, even if all the mirage stones in the entire universe were added up, it would not be as sad as you. If mirage stones, or even killing me, could make you happy, I would not have even half a shred of regret. Some things cannot be described with just sorry. That is what I wanted. If I did not want to, you would not have been able to do it. Don't call me senior apprentice sister from now on, just call me Qianghua. My husband, I will be back soon. Uncle, you left me a void-cleaving talisman. After I finish my things, I will come back here to accompany you, and then go back to Jiangzhou with you to visit junior sister Rulan. Chapter 554. The corners of his mouth still contained the bitter and salty tears from Qianghua's kiss. But what about Qianghua? What about Qianghua? What about Qianghua? A call came from the bottom of his heart. Ning Qing could no longer bear it. As he opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood, the berserk aura raged even more crazily within his body, causing his whole body to tremble even more fiercely. A mysterious yellow aura emerged from his zifu, just like a cool spring, instantly awakening Ning Cheng from his berserk state. Feeling the violent aura raging within his body, Ning Cheng felt shocked. If not for the mysterious yellow aura, he might have already fallen into cultivation deviation or even self-destructed. The crazed red in Ning Cheng's eyes gradually receded, while the murderous intent slowly condensed. Yu clan. After a long time, Ning Cheng spat out 2 words. He then walked towards the severed arm step by step, picked it up and reattached it while swallowing a few medicinal pills. He must avenge this enmity. Just half an hour after Ning Cheng left, a man in a golden robe landed at the place where Ning Cheng and Yu Huangfu were fighting. After sweeping out with his spiritual consciousness, his face suddenly turned livid, before he roared out in rage, "Who is it, who dares to kill my Yu clan's disciple?" If it were an ordinary Yu clan's disciple, it would not have mattered. But this time, it turned out to be Yu clan's premier genius, Yu Huangfu. Yu clan had spent a lot of effort and resources to cultivate Yu Huangfu. What's more, Yu Huangfu's father was Yu Changtai. Yu Changtai was not only the Yu clan's second expert, but also the Yu clan's premier talisman grand master, who had just advanced to the Emperor Talisman Master realm. Now that Yu Changtai had just left striking order Starry Skies, his son had fallen outside Lucky Heaven City. Who could bear the consequences? Regardless of whether he could bear the consequences or not, the golden-robed man knew that he had to find the murderer in the shortest time possible. Yu Huangfu had left Lucky Heaven City to support Yuan, and this place had obviously undergone a battle. The one who could kill Yu Huangfu in a face-to-face battle was either a top-grade celestial gatherer genius or a celestial bridge cultivator. Thinking of this, the golden-robed man quickly left the place. He had to return to Lucky Heaven City to discuss with the rest of the Yu clan. Even if he had the highest cultivation in the Yu clan in Lucky Heaven City, he could not make this decision alone. The mulberry region was not very far from Lucky Heaven City. It was only a few 100,000 miles away. For an ordinary person, this distance would take many years to travel. However, for a cultivator above the celestial novice realm, they could make a round trip in just half a day. This place was a gathering place for loose cultivators. Because there were no cities here, many loose cultivators had gathered together for a long time. That was why it was called the domain. This kind of place didn't have a specific manager. It was formed by intertwining forces and restraining each other. However, because this place was very close to the Lucky Heaven City and also within the striking order Starland, the cultivators living here had to abide by an invisible rule. The cultivators of the mulberry region came from all over the place. There were all sorts of people mixed together, and there was no management to restrict them. The flow of cultivators was very high, so the price of cave abodes was very cheap. After Ning Qing killed Yu Huangfu, he almost fell into cultivation deviation and was injured. Therefore, he did not return to Lucky Heaven City, but went to the mulberry region. Entering a restaurant, Ning Qing found a remote place and sat down. The appearance of the 5 elements treasure fall copper coin made Ning Qing unable to calm down. "Friend, what kind of wine would you like to drink?" A dark-skinned female cultivator walked up to Ning Qing with a smile. She was the bartender here. "What kind of wine do you have here?" Ning Qing asked in a low voice. The bartender seemed to be used to Ning Qing's customers and spoke in a fluent manner: starlight wine, ethereal spirit wine, mutual dependence wine, ice fire wine, gloom wine. "A pot of starlight wine," Ning Qing casually replied. "Okay, 3,000 green coins for a pot." The female bartender took out a pot of wine and placed it in front of Ning Qing. From the outside of the pot, one could see the flickering starlight. Ning Qing knew that this thing was actually a feeling. In this kind of place, it was absolutely impossible to drink a wine that could help one perceive the starlight. It was just like the none to depend on wine. He had been to several places but had never drunk the real none to depend on wine. Ning Qing took out 4,000 green coins and placed it in the bartender's hand. The bartender's face showed a slight joy and was just about to thank Ning Qing when she heard Ning Qing speak up. "This is a tip for you. I also want to ask you a few questions." "Dear guest, please ask away." The bartender's tone immediately turned polite. A tip of 1,000 green coins was not a lot in this place, but it was not a small amount either. "Have you heard of named Descendant Celestial River?" Ning Qing took out a wine glass and poured himself a glass before asking. The bartender quickly replied, "I've heard of it. Named Descendant Celestial River is one of our striking order Starry Skies 12 celestial rivers. Moreover, in the Time Wilderness trial, named Descendant Celestial River has a genius named Yu Yen who took the 8th place and will be heading to Grand Culmination Starry Sky with striking order Heavenly Emperor." Ning Qing had no interest in knowing who Yu Yen was. Seeing that the bartender knew about named Descendant Celestial River, he asked, "Do you know how long it will take to reach named Descendant Celestial River from striking order Starland?" The bartender thought about it for a moment before replying, "If you ride a top-grade Celestial River battleship, it will take about a year. During this time, you cannot encounter any Starry Skies demonic beasts. Once you do, there is no way to tell." Ning Cheng's eyes flashed with a trace of loss. After a moment, he nodded to the bartender and said, "I see, thank you." After the bartender left, Ning Qing stared at the glass of starlight wine in front of him. The wine exuded a starry aura, as if it contained a starry Tao charm. Ning Qing shook his head. He knew that it was just an illusion. He then picked up the glass and downed it. After the appearance of the 5 elements treasure fall copper coin, Ning Qing immediately thought of Shi Qianghua and immediately felt worried about Ji Luofei. Ji Luofei was in the rootless Black City. He knew that a ship would travel to the rootless Black City every 10 years. However, this ship did not originate from named descendant Celestial River. Rather, it came from a small planet on the periphery of named descendant Celestial River. It would take 10 years to reach the rootless Black City from this planet. Moreover, Ning Qing did not know how long it would take to reach named descendant Celestial River from this planet. According to his conversation with Lanya, he guessed that it would take longer than 10 years, not shorter. Even if he used the Celestial River battleship that he had snatched from Yu Huangfu, it would take him at least 20 years to reach the rootless Black City without encountering any starry skies, demonic beasts or any other difficulties. Once something happened, he might not be able to return to the rootless Black City even after 100 years. What's more, he most likely would not be able to use Yu Huangfu's Celestial River battleship. Ning Qing knew that a genuine Celestial River battleship would generally recognize its owner. Yu Huangfu's Celestial River battleship was undoubtedly a genuine Celestial River battleship and definitely not a knockoff. However, this was not what worried Ning Qing the most. What worried him the most was that after a few decades, when he returned to the rootless Black City, Ji Luofei might have already left the rootless Black City to find him. Ning Qing gave out a sigh and picked up the wine pot before pouring the entire bottle of Starlight wine into it. If he wanted to return to the rootless Black City as soon as possible, he could only use his original method, which was to leave the rootless Black City and head to the grand culmination Starry Skies. Only by improving his cultivation in the grand culmination Starry Skies and then purchasing a more powerful Starry Sky grade battleship or a more powerful flight-type Tao artifact would he be able to return to the rootless Black City in a short time. Yu Clan. Ning Qing finished the pot of wine and silently muttered those 2 words in his heart. Even if he wanted to head to the grand culmination Starry Skies, he would have to uproot the Yu Clan in the Lucky Heaven City. Otherwise, his Tao heart would feel unsettled. As for the Yu Clan that had moved to the grand culmination Starry Skies, he would never let it go. For half a day, Ning Qing sat in the restaurant and did not leave. His mind was filled with the bits and pieces of memories he had with Shi Qianghua. At the same time, his mind was also filled with the 2 words Yu Clan. He only had a celestial shatterer cultivation. Even if Lucky Heaven City was just a temporary foothold for the Yu Clan, could he take revenge? Any cultivator in the Celestial Bridge realm could easily kill him. No matter how powerful his dusk spiritual technique was, he was only one person. Moreover, his dusk spiritual technique consumed too much energy. Every time he cast it, his sea of consciousness would turn empty, along with his celestial essence. Perhaps there was another way to kill the Yu Clan, that is, to purchase some temporary medicinal pills that could forcibly raise his cultivation. Ning Qing clenched his fists. Even if taking the medicinal pills would cause his cultivation to drop, he had to kill the Yu Clan in Lucky Heaven City. Once he killed the Yu Clan in Lucky Heaven City, he would then find a way to go to the grand culmination Starry Skies and wait for the right time to kill the Yu Clan that had moved to the grand culmination Starry Skies. Yu Clan's Yu Huangfu was killed. I heard that the matter even reached the ears of Striking Order Heavenly Emperor. Moreover, Striking Order Heavenly Emperor had issued an arrest warrant for the murderer. The voices from the side passed into Ning Cheng's ears, causing Ning Cheng to abruptly wake up from his contemplation. Although the Yu Clan had moved away, Striking Order Heavenly Emperor still issued an arrest warrant. From this, one could tell that the Yu Clan's power was not low. Ning Qing carefully listened to the discussions between the 2 cultivators. I heard that as long as there is even a little clue, the Yu Clan would offer a sky-high reward of celestial coins. Many cultivators even went to the scene of the battle to see it. Hey, to kill Yu Huangfu, it must be at least a cultivator in the Celestial Bridge realm or above. This amount of celestial coins is not something that we can earn. Seeing the two people's discussion gradually diverging, Ning Qing picked up the wine pot and walked over. "Two friends, please. I was sitting next to you and heard the two of you talking about the Yu clan's Yu Huangfu." Hearing Ning Qing talk about the Yu clan, the two cultivators immediately stopped talking and looked at Ning Qing with vigilance. One of them only had a celestial gatherer cultivation, while the other had a celestial shatterer cultivation. Although they could gossip about each other, if something bad spread to the ears of the Yu clan, they would not be able to afford it. Seeing the two cultivators' nervous looks, Ning Qing quickly spoke up. "Within the starry skies, everyone is a friend. I just wanted to ask casually. I heard that as long as you provide a few clues to the Yu clan, you can obtain a lot of celestial coins. Therefore, I wanted to try my luck." Hearing Ning Cheng's words, the two cultivators finally relaxed their vigilance. The two, on seeing that Ning Cheng did not even have a celestial wheel, felt a little speechless. A celestial novice cultivator, wanting to make such a fortune, was obviously just a dream. Chapter 555. Half an hour later, Ning Cheng left the restaurant. After obtaining some information, he decided to kill all the remaining cultivators of Yu clan in Lucky Heaven City before leaving. Because the Yu clan had produced a talisman emperor, they received an invitation from the Grand Culmination Starry Skies. A few years ago, the Yu clan moved from bright south celestial rivers Dai Yuan Star to striking order Starland's Lucky Heaven City. After that, the Yu clan's people continued to head towards Grand Culmination Starry Skies. Some of the Yu clan's cultivators stayed behind in Lucky Heaven City. Some of them were here for the time wilderness smelting trials, while others did not have the time to leave. Among the Yu clan's cultivators who remained in Lucky Heaven City, the one with the highest cultivation was Yu Shang, an undead cultivator. The rest were all celestial scryer cultivators. Ning Cheng believed that if he could purchase a medicinal pill to improve his cultivation, as long as he could forcibly raise his cultivation to the celestial bridge realm, regardless of the consequences, he would definitely kill the people from the Yu clan. As the premier chamber of commerce in the Manluan Star Land, the Striking Star Chamber of Commerce had branches in almost every corner of the Manluan Star Land. Even the Mulberry region, a place where rogue cultivators gathered, had a Striking Star Merchant House. The Striking Star Merchant House was the largest merchant house within the Mulberry region. Even if the prices here were higher compared to the other merchant houses, there were still many cultivators who came here to buy things. This was because there were no fakes here, and the same items here were of a higher grade than other commercial buildings. Most importantly, there was a complete range of goods available here. Even if you wanted something of a higher grade, as long as you could afford the celestial coins, the Striking Star Merchant House would be able to provide it. At this time, a middle-aged man arrived at the Striking Star Merchant House. This man's entire body exuded a fiery aura, while his appearance looked just like the bark of an ancient tree. This was none other than Ning Cheng wearing the Dao artifact mask. This appearance was similar to the flaming man he had met when he obtained the fire origin bead. He was the one who saved the burning man with the bark, so it was only right for him to use his identity. Ning Cheng walked into the Striking Star Merchant House and only glanced at the first floor before entering the second floor. It seemed that the powerful flame aura emanating from Ning Cheng's body had attracted the attention of the merchant house, causing a shop assistant to take the initiative to come in front of Ning Cheng and speak. "May I ask what senior needs?" Ning Cheng rolled his eyes and spoke, "Do you have any good healing pills here? Don't show me garbage." The shop assistant quickly spoke up, "Of course, we have the top-grade returning Celestial Jade Scale Pill, a Grade 4 Celestial River Healing Medicinal Pill, refined by a Celestial River Pill King from my Striking Order Starry Skies. Even Fate State seniors would be able to benefit from this pill. Is there anything better?" Ning Cheng once again asked with an expressionless face. "This." The shop assistant hesitated for a moment before speaking, "Our pill house is not able to come up with better medicinal pills. However, the Striking Star Merchant House in the Lucky Heaven City sells them. It's just that the price is very expensive. A single Grade 4 returning Celestial Jade Scale Pill costs 2 million green coins. This shop assistant apparently felt afraid that Ning Cheng would bite off more than he could chew, so he immediately stated the price first. Since the price of a grade 4 Celestial River medicinal pill was already so high, then the price of a grade 5 Celestial River medicinal pill was even more outrageous. You can ask for the price, but you have to be able to afford it first. Ning Cheng cursed in his heart that this medicinal pill was simply a robbery. A single healing medicinal pill cost 2 million green coins. He also understood the shop assistant's intention, but he did not intend to go to Lucky Heaven City to purchase healing medicinal pills. Then I'll buy 20 of them. Ning Cheng took out a 100 million green coin card. The shop assistant immediately understood that this flaming bark-like cultivator in front of him was a big customer. He quickly took out the medicinal pill and handed it to Ning Cheng, before asking with an even more polite tone, "Does Senior need anything else? Do you have a grade 5 Celestial River Trap and Kill formation?" Ning Cheng asked casually after putting away the medicinal pill. The shop assistant shook his head in silence. "Senior, we do not have such a high-grade trap and kill formation here. If you want to purchase a grade 5 Celestial River Trap and Kill formation, you will need to go to Lucky Heaven City." Hearing that there was no grade 5 trap and kill formation, Ning Cheng felt a little disappointed. He hesitated for a moment before continuing, "Then I need a lot of extreme stones, glazed light crystals, seeking heart ghost branches, green feather poison silk, heaven terminating sand." Ning Cheng listed out dozens of materials in one breath. "We have all these things, how many does Senior need?" Only after Ning Cheng finished did the shop assistant give out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the materials Ning Cheng listed were not precious. Ning Cheng pondered for a moment before speaking, 200 of the same. "What?" the shop assistant exclaimed in shock. 200 of the same, was this a wholesale deal? Ning Cheng gave a cold snort, and the fiery aura around his body grew even more intense. The shop assistant shuddered. He knew that this kind of person was the easiest to serve, but also the most difficult to serve. Easy to serve because this kind of person had a lot of celestial coins, but difficult to serve because of this kind of person's eccentric temperament. He did not wait for Ning Cheng to speak at all and spoke up, "Senior, please wait a moment. I will help Senior prepare it immediately. 200 of them, a total of 110 million green coins." Ning Cheng did not have to wait for long before the shop assistant delivered the things he needed, along with a storage bag. "Excuse me, Senior, what else do you need?" Ning Cheng had done a business worth nearly 200 million green coins in just a blink of an eye, causing the shop assistant to regard Ning Cheng as a top customer. "No." Ning Cheng turned around and walked away. He had only taken 2 steps when he suddenly stopped and looked back, seemingly indifferently asking, "By the way, do you have any medicinal pills that can suddenly increase one's cultivation? Something like the Burning Life pill." The Burning Life pill stimulated the true essence in a cultivator's body, allowing the cultivator's strength to soar in a short period of time, even by a few levels. Speaking of the Burning Life pill, Ning Cheng immediately thought of Su Yingde. Although this woman wanted to kill him and use him to sever her emotions, he also remembered that this woman had saved his life with the Burning Life pill. Without this woman, he might have already died in the Hidden Mist Cemetery. However, this woman with a split personality, after burning her lifespan to save him, she then schemed against him and used his life to sever her emotions. Without his wife, Shi Qianghua, his fate would not have been much better. Thinking of Shi Qianghua, Ning Cheng felt a burst of pain in his heart. If something really happened to Shi Qianghua, he would never forgive himself. "Yes, of course, we have the grade 5 violent celestial pill here. This medicinal pill can even directly increase a celestial gatherer cultivator's cultivation by 2 levels. It can even be said to have amazing explosive power." The shop assistant quickly spoke up. Ning Cheng felt moved in his heart. "Increasing by 2 levels, doesn't that mean advancing from the celestial gatherer realm to the undead realm?" The shop assistant awkwardly explained, "This is only a theoretical possibility. Generally speaking, advancing from the celestial gatherer realm to the celestial bridge realm only costs 3 million green coins." Ning Cheng sneered and spoke, this medicinal pill should be close to a grade 5 celestial river medicinal pill, right? Yet, it only costs 3 million green coins. Does it have any side effects? The shop assistant hesitated for a moment before speaking. There are indeed some side effects, that is, there is a very small possibility of the sea of consciousness collapsing after taking it. Because of the explosive power of this medicinal pill, if one's sea of consciousness cannot withstand it, it might directly collapse. Moreover, the effective time is only half an hour. After half an hour, the medicinal efficacy would disappear. As long as one's sea of consciousness can withstand it after taking it, one could recover after a period of weakness. Ning Qing finally understood. No wonder this medicinal pill was so cheap. This shop assistant definitely did not tell the truth. He said that after taking this medicinal pill, there was not a very small possibility of one's sea of consciousness collapsing, but rather a very large possibility. After all, advancing from the celestial scryer realm to the celestial river realm, the expansion of one's sea of consciousness would not be small. However, Ning Qing did not fear it. He had the starry sky sea of consciousness. After a slight hesitation, Ning Qing spoke up, "In that case, give me 2 of these medicinal pills." The shop assistant felt happy in his heart. This violent celestial pill did not belong to the striking star merchant house, but his own. Unfortunately, he only had one. "I only have one of these medicinal pills. If," Ning Qing impatiently interrupted the shop assistant's words, "one is one, give it to me." Until Ning Qing walked out, the shop assistant still could not believe that he had actually sold this trash medicinal pill. No one dared to buy this violent celestial pill. As Ning Qing guessed, there was a 70 to 80% chance that one's sea of consciousness would collapse after taking this medicinal pill. Whether Ning Cheng's sea of consciousness would collapse or not, the shop assistant did not care about it at all. What he cared about was how many celestial coins he earned today. After leaving the mulberry territory, Ning Qing dug out a cave in the wilderness. While healing himself, he started to refine an array disc. He could not buy a grade 5 celestial array disc, nor could he refine one. However, he could refine a grade 3 celestial array disc. A grade 3 celestial array disc might not mean much to an undead powerhouse, but what about 10 or 100? Entrapment arrays, killing arrays, entrapment and killing arrays. 3 days later, Ning Qing unexpectedly received a message from the celestial novice middle-aged man. The celestial novice cultivator told him that there was a way to get a ticket to the grand culmination starry skies. However, the price was a bit high. Ning Qing quickly sent a message back to the celestial novice cultivator, telling him that the price was not a problem. At the same time, he also made an appointment to meet at the entrance of the trade union 6 days later. No matter how crazy Lucky Heaven City tried to find the news of Yu Huangfu's death, striking Order Starland would not seal off the planet. Yu Shang was a member of the Yu clan, however, his face was still too shallow. Striking Order Heavenly Emperor had issued an arrest warrant not because of Yu Shang's face, but because of Yu Huangfu's father, Yu Changtai. Inside the Yu clan's residence in Lucky Heaven City, more than 20 Yu clan cultivators gathered in a spacious hall with ugly expressions on their faces. With Yu Huangfu dead, even if they managed to reach the grand culmination starry skies, they would have to bear the wrath of Yu clan's talisman emperor, Yu Changtai. Even if they could not avenge Yu Huangfu, they could at least find out who killed Yu Huangfu. However, 6 days had passed since Yu Huangfu's death, yet they still had not received any news. At this moment, a Yu clan cultivator with a celestial novice cultivation rushed in. He even forgot to salute Yu Shang and spoke up eagerly, "Uncle Shang, there is a young celestial novice cultivator outside. He said that he has news of senior apprentice brother Huangfu's death." "What?" Yu Shang suddenly stood up and spoke up anxiously, hurry up and call that cultivator in." Chapter 556. The cultivator who came to report the news soon found himself in front of Yu Shang. Sure enough, he was a young celestial novice cultivator who had not even cultivated a celestial wheel. Yu Shang wasn't in the mood to care about the cultivation of this reporting cultivator. He didn't even wait for the reporting cultivator to speak before he hurriedly said, "Hurry up and speak. What news do you have?" Where did you get it? The celestial novice cultivator came forward in fear and gave a respectful bow before carefully speaking, I just came from River Mound City. Originally, I was in the River Mound City's moon-governing merchant house to purchase medicinal pills when I happened to see a senior in the celestial bridge realm selling talismans to the merchant house. He took out a pile of talismans and a pair of talisman-shaped magic treasures. Initially, I did not care about it, but after I arrived at Lucky Heaven City, I came to know about Yu Clan's Huangfu Tiansai's death. It immediately made me think that the talismans sold by that celestial bridge cultivator might have belonged to Yu Clan. Pa, Yu Shang kicked the jade table in front of him to pieces, as he gnashed his teeth and spoke, daring to kill my Yu Clan's disciples, and even daring to sell talismans in River Mound City, courting death. The Yu Clan's cultivators in the hall were filled with murderous auras. They already hated this cultivator who killed Yu Huangfu. Now that they had news of the murderer, how could they restrain themselves? A scarlet-robed celestial shatterer cultivator stood up and said, Uncle Shang, I think we should capture this person and force him to tell us where he came from. Then, we can kill everyone related to him. Humph. Another cold snort arrived as a celestial gatherer cultivator standing next to Yu Shang stood up and spoke, Uncle Shang, this person has a celestial bridge cultivation, yet dared to touch my Yu Clan's genius disciple. Presumably, he came from a low-level true cultivation planet. I think junior brother Min is right, but it's not enough. If we only kill people related to him, others will think that our Yu Clan is easy to bully. Seeing everyone looking at him, the celestial gatherer cultivator spoke up again, in addition to killing everyone related to this person, we also have to destroy this low-level planet. Let everyone know the consequences of offending my Yu Clan. Ning Cheng, who had disguised himself as a cultivator from the reporting faith celestial body, felt shocked. This bastard truly was ruthless. He had only intended to get rid of the Yu Clan's inheritance. He did not intend to lay his hands on the women and children of the Yu Clan. However, these fellows actually wanted to destroy an entire planet. No matter how few people there were on a planet, there would still be more than 10 billion people. To them, killing more than 10 billion people was as easy as eating and drinking. The corner of Yu Shang's mouth revealed a trace of ruthlessness. Even if no one had suggested it, he would have found a way to destroy this low-level planet. Daring to kill the number one genius of the Yu Clan, this planet no longer needed to exist. What do you think about that person's appearance? Yu Shang's gaze once again fell on Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng quickly took out a portrait and handed it over, I just drew it based on my memory. I just arrived at Lucky Heaven City, so that person must still be in River Mound City. Yu Shang took Ning Cheng's portrait and saw a cultivator with a pointy chin. He frowned slightly. This person felt somewhat familiar. However, he did not think too much about it. He glanced at the rest of the people and said, I'm going to Pufu City now. I'll be back in an hour at most. River Mound City was very close to Lucky Heaven City. With Yu Shang's undead cultivation, it would not be strange for him to return in an hour. Uncle Shang, why don't you call a few disciples to come with you? An older Yu Clan disciple quickly spoke up. Yu Shang laughed, a trivial celestial bridge cultivator, I don't even put him in my eyes. He had been to the scene of the fight, and even that celestial bridge cultivator and Yu Huangfu had fought for a long time. How could he fear such a fellow? What's more, once he arrived at River Mound City, he would not even need to do anything himself. As long as he spoke to the city master, someone would automatically capture the murderer. Heavenly Emperor's striking order had to give face to the Yu Clan, so how could others not give face? Before Yu Shang left, he nodded to the two celestial gatherer cultivators beside him and said, Yu Hai, I'll leave this place to you. After that, he glanced at Ning Cheng again before quickly leaving the hall. Thank you for coming here to inform us. After Yu Shang left, the celestial gatherer cultivator called Yu Hai spoke to Ning Cheng in a warm tone. Ning Cheng quickly waved his hand, no need, no need. It's what I should do. By the way, who else is in your family? Where do you live? Who else knows that you came here? Yu Hai continued to ask with a smile. I'm a rogue cultivator, and there is no one in my family. I can eat my fill alone without starving the whole family. Therefore, no one knows that I came here. Ning Qing gave a somewhat reserved and awkward smile. At the same time, he used his spiritual consciousness to secretly calculate what to do next. Yu Hai felt very satisfied with Ning Cheng's answer and nodded before speaking, "That's for the best. However, we are sorry that we can't give you any remuneration. It's not that we don't want to part with these celestial coins, but you don't have the life to spend it." Ning Cheng asked in surprise, "Why?" He truly felt a little surprised. After all, he came here to deliver a message. Moreover, the Yu clan was also a famous clan. How could they be reluctant to part with these celestial coins? The scarlet-robed celestial shatterer cultivator who spoke before glanced at Ning Cheng with disdain. "A trivial celestial novice cultivator dares to receive a reward of 1 billion green coins?" Ning Cheng suddenly spoke up, "I understand. You want to destroy a planet. Therefore, you are afraid that if I spread the news, it would not be good for the Yu clan's reputation." Yu Hai showed a slight smile. "You're right. Since you came here to deliver the message, you can solve it yourself. Fortunately, no one knows that you came here, which is a good thing for you and others. If the Yu clan destroyed a planet, others could speculate that the Yu clan did it. However, they could never have any evidence that the Yu clan did it." "All right." Ning Qing suddenly spoke up, "By the way, did you know that I killed Yu Huangfu?" As Ning Qing spoke the last word, he immediately brought out the treasured thunder spear in his hand. At the same time, his celestial river domain crazily swept out. Dozens of terrifying flame-like spear intents erupted around the spear shadows. These spear intents then shot out with a sharp murderous intent. Although Ning Qing felt somewhat restrained in front of Yu Huangfu, he did not care about the low-leveled cultivators here. As his powerful domain stretched out, it completely enveloped the Yu clan's cultivators. However, the cultivators here could not react. It was not until Ning Cheng's treasured thunder spear pierced through the glabella of 5 celestial gatherer cultivators that the rest of the Yu clan's disciples reacted. Crazily stretching out their domains, they also brought out their weapons to attack Ning Cheng. At this time, why would Ning Cheng feel any fear of other things being discovered? Bringing out the everlasting Blue Thunder City, the increasingly clear Blue Thunder City blocked the bombardment of more than a dozen weapons. At the same time, more and more flame patterns appeared on Ning Cheng's long spear. Poof poof poof. Blood splattered as Ning Cheng continuously pierced through their dantians. This was a battle without any resistance. After Ning Cheng ambushed the 5 celestial gatherer cultivators with the highest cultivation under the shackles of his celestial river domain, the Yu clan's cultivators in the room simply could not organize any resistance. The celestial river flame, which had been broken down, burned more than a dozen life essence spirits. However, Ning Cheng's soundproofing restrictions completely sealed off their screams. "What hatred does my Yu clan have with you? Not only did you brutally kill my Yu clan's people, but you also used such vicious means." Yu Hai roared at Ning Cheng through gritted teeth. Ning Cheng's tone turned cold. "If your Yu clan had caught me, I'm afraid it would not have been so simple, right? Your Yu clan even killed the messenger. It really is bad to the bone. Now, I only have one question for you. Who knows the origin of the 5 elements treasure fall copper coin? I will give you pain. Are you here for the 5 elements treasure fall copper coin?" Yu Hai seemed to have understood something. Ning Cheng did not bother to answer his words and continued to use the celestial river flame to burn them. "I know, I beg Senior to give me a clean answer." What Ning Cheng did not expect was that the one who spoke was the celestial shatterer cultivator in red robes. The celestial river flame in Ning Cheng's hand cracked open, and more than a dozen life essence spirits turned to ashes, leaving only the scarlet-robed celestial shatterer cultivator. "Speak, if I am not satisfied with what you say, I will use the flame to burn your life essence for 49 days. Ning Cheng's tone turned even colder. If not for the fact that he could not use soul search to find complete information, he would not have asked this scarlet-robed cultivator to speak and would have directly used soul search. The scarlet-robed cultivator quickly replied, "Yes, yes. The 5 Elements treasure fall copper coin was brought by a low-level disciple of my Yu clan, Yu Yangji. That Yu Yangji came from the incandescent stars Qin Wu City. In the Qin Wu City, there is a female cultivator called Shi Qianghua. When Ning Qing heard that Qianghua, in order to return to the sifting orchid star, had asked the Yu clan for help in crafting talismans, but ended up being schemed against by the Yu clan, and ended up perishing together with the Yu clan, he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Yu Yangji was a crafty old fox. After snatching the 5 elemental treasure fall copper coin, he used the void-cleaving talisman to enter the starry sky. His luck was good. It only took him more than 10 years to find an airship in the starry sky. There was no need for this scarlet-robed cultivator to speak about it, as Ning Qing had already learned about it from Yu Huangfu. Moreover, Ning Qing did not know that Shi Qianghua had spent decades helping the Yu clan find materials for crafting talismans. One could even say that Yu Yangji being able to craft the void-cleaving talisman was mostly due to Shi Qianghua's efforts. If Ning Qing knew about it, he might have continued to burn the life essence of this place. Yu Shang asked around the entire Pu Mound city, but he could not find the moon managing merchant house, so he felt that something was wrong. A puny celestial novice cultivator dared to lie to him. Even if he wanted to lie, he would not fabricate a merchant house. Unable to find the lunar governing merchant house, Yu Shang once again recalled Ning Cheng's words. Although Ning Cheng spoke to him, an undead cultivator, with a respectful demeanor, Ning Cheng's tone felt somewhat wrong. A celestial novice cultivator speaking to an undead cultivator like him should have addressed him as senior, and should have addressed himself as junior. It felt like he had directly addressed himself as me. Besides, even if a celestial bridge cultivator killed Huangfu, there was no need to sell Yu clan's talismans in such an arrogant manner in such a close place, right? Even if it was for sale, how could a puny celestial novice cultivator discover it? He had been in a rush to find the murderer, which resulted in him not thinking of so many flaws. This celestial novice cultivator definitely had a problem. Yu Shang immediately reacted. He immediately thought of the lunar governing merchant house. Didn't that mean murdering Yu merchant house? This person was an enemy of the Yu clan. Thinking of this, Yu Shang no longer had the mood to stay in River Mound City. He immediately rushed out of River Mound City and rushed towards Lucky Heaven City. Chapter 557. The Yu clan's residence was extremely quiet. After entering the defensive array formation, Yu Shang's spiritual consciousness immediately swept towards the corpses of the Yu clan's cultivators in the hall. His expression changed, and he stepped into the hall. He had just left this place an hour ago. Before leaving, he had also instructed Yu Hai to kill the celestial novice cultivator who came to report the news. However, he did not expect that half an hour later, he would return to this place only to see the corpses of Yu clan's cultivators. Yu Shang's hands trembled slightly. The Yu clan had left him in Lucky Heaven City to lead the Yu clan's disciples who had not yet had the time to leave. But now, not only was Yu Huangfu killed, even the cultivators from Lucky Heaven City's Yu clan had all died. No, that's not right, Yu Shang suddenly woke up. Since the other party wanted to kill everyone in the Yu clan, why did they want to deceive him? Since they had tricked him into leaving, why didn't they go to a faraway place? Why didn't they make him come back so quickly? Just as Yu Shang thought of this, a terrifying killing intent swept over. This definitely was a cultivator in the Celestial Bridge realm. Yu Shang immediately brought out his Iron Pagoda artifact. However, before he could bring out his Iron Pagoda artifact, a powerful domain shackle swept over him. Someone sneak attacked him, causing Yu Shang to groan. Celestial essence surged out of his body, and he forcibly twisted his body. However, a sharp spear shadow shot past his waist. If it were an ordinary Celestial Bridge realm's domain shackles, Yu Shang would have been able to break free from it. However, the domain in front of him far exceeded the domain of an ordinary Celestial Bridge cultivator. As such, he could not completely withdraw from this murderous intent. Poof! An axe with an even more powerful axe intent immediately smashed into his abdomen, directly blasting open a bloody hole in his abdomen, even bringing out a chunk of his internal organs. A violent aura suddenly appeared in the middle of the hall, as Ning Qing stood up from the pile of dead Yu clan cultivators. So it's you. No wonder you led me away. It turns out that you are just a celestial scryer ant relying on a violent celestial pill. You dare to wait for me here. You swallowed the violent star pill and didn't die. It's not your luck, it's your misfortune. Yu Shang's eyes and words contained an ice-cold killing intent. He had already thought about how to deal with Ning Cheng. If he did not torture this ant-like celestial scryer cultivator to the point that he begged for death, he would not be a disciple of the Yu clan. Ning Cheng's murderous aura overflowed from his body, and his cultivation soared. However, his starry sky sea of consciousness managed to block the expansion of his celestial essence. However, Ning Cheng did not feel much happiness in his heart. He had used the violent celestial pill to forcibly raise his cultivation to the celestial bridge realm. However, it was still a far cry from advancing to the celestial bridge realm. Although Yu Shang suffered a sneak attack from him, he unexpectedly managed to avoid a fatal spear strike. Moreover, the wishful demon axe opened a bloody hole in his abdomen at a speed visible to the naked eye. This undead realm cultivator truly was formidable. Ning Cheng did not speak any nonsense with Yu Shang. Bringing out the treasured thunder spear, it shot out a fire-patterned shadow. He had to kill Yu Shang in the shortest possible time, otherwise, he could only wait for death. Do you think that by forcibly advancing to the celestial bridge realm and sneak attacking me, you can kill me? Idiot. Presumably, you also sneak attacked Yu Huangfu. Apart from sneak attacks and swallowing violent celestial pills, ants don't have anything else to do. As Yu Shang spoke, the iron tower in his hands suddenly swelled up. The iron tower rapidly grew, and in the blink of an eye, it had reached the 3rd floor. Ning Cheng did not speak a single word. The treasured thunder spear's fire-patterned shadow grew denser and denser, while the spear intent grew more and more powerful. The 1st floor of the iron tower brought out by Yu Shang suddenly erupted with layers after layers of black fog. Ning Cheng felt shocked. Was this a poisonous fog? Although he felt shocked, his hands did not stop moving. Instead, he threw out countless array flags. One after another, array discs emerged around Yu Shang. Sword lights, saber lights, spear lights, axe lights. Densely packed together, submerging Yu Shang in a blink of an eye. Yu Shang gave a cold snort. You dare to use some garbage array discs against me. He felt anger in his heart. He felt anger towards Ning Cheng, an ant-like cultivator, for using a grade 3 celestial killing array to deal with him, an undead realm powerhouse. The black fog on the 1st floor of the iron tower began to condense, forming a huge net that shot towards Ning Cheng. However, Ning Cheng's hundreds of celestial ranked array discs managed to block this giant net. Ning Cheng's traceless spear intent had not yet attacked when a half-moon blade light shot out from the 2nd floor of Yu Shang's iron tower. These blade lights easily tore through Ning Cheng's celestial river domain. Under these terrifying blade lights, Ning Cheng's 3-star offensive array discs started to crack like popcorn. Ning Cheng's heart sank. He finally realized what it meant to be ignorant and fearless. He was too ignorant. He thought that by forcibly advancing to the celestial bridge realm, he could talk to Yu Shang in the undead realm. In fact, he was not just 1 or 2 points behind. If he hadn't taken the violent celestial pill, he would have already died. Ning Cheng had advanced to the celestial bridge realm with the help of the violent essence pill. Although it could not compare to the celestial bridge realm that he cultivated normally, it was still several times stronger than his previous celestial shatter realm. Even so, it was not enough in front of Yu Shang. The gap between the undead realm and the celestial bridge realm was so huge. Ning Cheng had used all kinds of favorable conditions to sneak attack Yu Shang. However, it obviously did not cause any fatal damage to Yu Shang. Buzz. Although Ning Cheng brought out the wishful demon axe with all his strength, the 1st half-moon blade light that flew out from the 2nd floor of Yu Shang's iron tower still managed to blow away his small axe. At the same time, the black mist net that had gradually destroyed more than 100 grade 3 celestial killing arrays also seemed to be about to envelop him. Ning Qing still had two options. One was to bring out the everlasting Blue Thunder City, and the other was to use the Dusk Spiritual Technique. Ning Qing knew that facing such a powerful Yushang, whether he used the Maximal Flame Spiritual Technique or brought out the everlasting Blue Thunder City, it would only allow him to live a little longer. Moreover, his violent celestial pill could only last for half an hour. Because of his lack of understanding of cultivators in the undead realm, coupled with his overestimation of the effects of the violent celestial pill, he had fallen into a desperate situation. Yushang apparently saw that Ning Qing had no way out. He gave a cold snort. "You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth." He was not in a hurry to ask Ning Qing why he hated the Yu clans so much. After he sealed Ning Qing's essence spirit, he would turn everything behind this ant into ashes. Poof! The Iron Tower's second half-moon blade light finally tore through Ning Cheng's domain and pierced through Ning Cheng's waist, leaving behind a wound that looked even more horrifying than Yushang's waist. Seeing the exit to the third floor of Yushang's Iron Tower flickering with light, Ning Qing knew that he could not wait any longer. The treasured thunder spear in his hand shot out in a frenzy, bringing with it a flash of lightning. Courting death. Seeing Ning Qing shoot out with his spear for no reason, Yushang's mouth turned even more sneering. This celestial scryer ant was at a complete loss. He could not even display his basic skills. However, he soon felt something wrong. Although he was in the hall, he could feel the setting sun. Then, he saw a beautiful sunset glow at the tip of Ning Cheng's spear. What a beautiful dusk, Yushang had just sighed when he saw his iron tower seemingly come to a standstill. His black mist net also came to a standstill, and even his half-moon blade light also came to a standstill. The radiant door on the third floor of the iron tower, which was about to open, also came to a halt. No, this was not a beautiful dusk. This was a spirit technique, a time-type spirit technique. Thinking that Ning Qing could control a time-type spirit technique, Yushang felt his soul fly out of his body. Ning Qing also felt shocked. This was not the first time he had used a time-type spirit technique. However, this time, it gave him a huge shock. For the first time, he saw dusk and the setting sun in his spirit technique. Even he himself lost himself in this beautiful sunset's twilight. However, Ning Qing quickly sobered up. This was just his dusk spirit technique. This sunset glow had suddenly appeared, not because of a change in the dusk spirit technique, but because of a change in his cultivation. He had forcibly raised his cultivation to the celestial bridge realm, which allowed his cultivation to rise by several times. At the same time, the dusk spirit technique that he cast now had a vague sunset glow and a sunset rainbow. In the future, once his cultivation rose again, his dusk spirit technique would become even more beautiful. However, that beauty would also bring with it the sadness of a setting sun. Yushang immediately reacted to the fact that it was a time-type spirit technique. Knowing that this celestial scryer cultivator had touched upon the laws of time, he no longer showed even half a shred of contempt. He crazily stimulated his spiritual consciousness and celestial essence, trying to break free from this sunset's dusk. The half-moon blade light once again started to move slowly, and the black net also started to move slowly. The surroundings seemed to have started to regain its vitality. Ning Qing felt shocked in his heart. He did not think that Yushang could move his dusk spirit technique. Moreover, he had taken the violent celestial pill. If he had not taken the violent celestial pill, this dusk spirit technique might not have any effect on Yushang. Poof! The treasured thunder spear blasted out a bloody mist. Yushang stared at Ning Qing with wide eyes. Before this moment, he never believed that this cultivator who had swallowed the violent celestial pill had touched upon the laws of time. However, the facts forced him to believe it. Facing a time-type spirit technique, even if he was an undead cultivator, he would still die. He had indeed loosened the time spirit technique. As long as he had 3 breaths, no, as long as he had 2 breaths or even 1 breath, he could have turned defeat into victory and killed this puny celestial scryer cultivator. Unfortunately, he did not even have half a breath of time. When he loosened the time spirit technique, the spear had already pierced through his glabella. Catcha! The treasured thunder spear twisted, and Yushang's life essence did not even have time to escape before Ning Cheng's treasured thunder spear turned it into nothingness. Feeling extremely weak, Ning Cheng used the treasured thunder spear to prop up his body and gasped for a few breaths. If not for the dusk spirit technique, he would not have stood even half a chance today. The strength of the undead realm made him understand that it was foolish to forcibly raise one's cultivation. Fortunately, he had lured Yushang away before he started. Otherwise, even with the dusk spirit technique, he would not have been able to obtain any benefits today. Ning Cheng threw out several fireballs, turning everything in this place into flying ash. He then looked at the treasured thunder spear in his hand and thought to himself, this spirit technique should no longer be called dusk. It should be called sunset's twilight. The crazy loss of celestial essence and spiritual consciousness made Ning Cheng realize that after casting the dusk spirit technique, the after-effects of the violent celestial pill would arrive ahead of time. As such, he could not stay here any longer. After checking again to make sure that he did not miss anything, Ning Cheng quickly left the hall. Chapter 558. The returning star jade scale pill was not cheap, but its effects were not bad. Ning Cheng's injuries were not light. But even with his celestial essence exhausted, he still managed to stop his injuries after taking several returning celestial jade scale pills. Once again arriving at the entrance of the trade union, Ning Cheng did not see the middle-aged celestial novice cultivator. However, he also knew that he did not have any celestial essence and had severe injuries. Therefore, there was no better way than to wait here. If there was no news about the middle-aged celestial novice cultivator, he would have no choice but to leave Lucky Heaven City. At this moment, he could only rely on his luck. Once the news of Yu Clan's cultivators dying in Lucky Heaven City spread out, even if he was a celestial novice cultivator, he would still end up being investigated. Senior, this junior was just wondering when you would arrive. I didn't expect you to come so soon. A pleasantly surprised voice arrived, causing Ning Cheng to turn around and see the middle-aged celestial novice cultivator. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness was completely exhausted, and even his celestial essence was almost depleted. Yet, he did not discover the other party first. Ning Cheng deliberately frowned, indicating that he was a little impatient. Because Ning Cheng had lost all of his cultivation, although he had taken the returning celestial jade scale pill, it could only suppress his injuries. This middle-aged celestial novice cultivator could smell the faint smell of blood coming from Ning Cheng, however, he did not dare to ask about it. Now that Ning Cheng frowned, he quickly bowed and spoke, Senior, I do not have a ticket, but I do have a way to help Senior get onto the ship, but I would have to use the identity of a servant to board the ship. Ning Cheng didn't expect this fellow to have such skills. Ning Cheng couldn't help but praise him in his heart. However, on the surface, he pretended to ponder over it for a moment before speaking, Are we going to sit on the same ship as those geniuses heading to the grand culmination starry skies? The middle-aged celestial novice cultivator quickly replied, No, this time, because Heavenly Emperor also wants to go to grand culmination starry skies, more than a dozen merchant ships are tagging along. I helped you get the identity of a slave on a merchant ship. This is a little unfair to Senior. Ning Cheng waved his hand and spoke, You don't have to say anything about being wronged. I don't really care about my identity, but I will not really become a slave. I just need a separate place to rest, and I don't need to be ordered around. The middle-aged celestial novice cultivator spoke with certainty, naturally, but the price. How many celestial coins? Just tell me directly. Ning Cheng simply waved his hand, 3 billion green coins. Originally, he wanted to say 1 billion celestial coins, however, this middle-aged celestial novice cultivator felt that Ning Cheng's money was easy to earn and added another 300 million midway. So cheap. Ning Cheng had initially thought that it would cost at least 4 to 5 billion green coins, however, he did not expect that it would only cost 3 billion green coins. He also knew that this middle-aged celestial novice cultivator had increased the price. However, for him, it was not a matter of celestial coins, but a matter of leaving this place as soon as possible. Ning Qing hesitated for 5 or 6 minutes. It was not until this middle-aged celestial novice cultivator started to feel uneasy that Ning Qing gave out a sigh. So expensive. Not waiting for the middle-aged celestial novice cultivator to take the initiative to lower the price, Ning Qing continued, 3 billion green coins it is. Fortunately, I barely have enough on me. When are you leaving? I don't have time to wait. Otherwise, I'll find someone else. Hearing that Ning Qing did not even ask for a single cent, the middle-aged celestial novice cultivator quickly spoke up, we can leave now. Senior can pay after boarding the airship. Ning Qing wanted to hear these words. He knew that the airship heading to Grand Culmination Starry Skies would leave in a few days. If this celestial novice cultivator could not handle this matter by tonight, he would not hesitate to leave Lucky Heaven City. An hour later, the celestial novice cultivator brought Ning Qing to a relatively remote courtyard in Lucky Heaven City. Ning Qing had lost his cultivation, as such, he did not want to enter this small courtyard. However, he also knew that if he wanted to leave Lucky Heaven City safely, he had to go inside. Are you here? A low voice emerged from the small courtyard. Ning Qing had just entered the small courtyard when he saw a thin, dark-faced man appear in front of him. This dark-faced cultivator had 3 celestial wheels behind him, indicating that he had a celestial gatherer cultivation. The middle-aged celestial novice cultivator who brought Ning Qing in immediately changed to a humble tone and replied, yes, Association Master. The price has already been negotiated. As long as this guest has a quiet place to rest, good or bad, the price is 3 billion green coins. Ning Qing saw the dark-faced man's eyes flash with joy. Apparently, he felt very satisfied with the price. My name is Pei Pei. Many thanks for trusting us, friend. The dark-faced man cupped his fists towards Ning Qing and spoke in a polite tone. Ning Qing took out the 3 billion green coins card and handed it over before speaking with a flat tone, I want to board the ship now. He had lost his cultivation and did not have the confidence to bargain with others. Therefore, taking out the green coins showed that he was a forthright person and did not like to procrastinate. As for signing up, he did not even think about it. Ha! Pei Pei put away the green coin card and laughed, this friend sure is straightforward. Since you are so straightforward, I, Pei Pei, would like to send you to the airship alone. Please. Following Pei Pei out of the small courtyard, Ning Qing gave a dark sigh in his heart. No matter where he went in the future, he could not put himself at such an absolute disadvantage. With his cultivation gone, he did not have the slightest ability to resist. Pei Pei, on seeing that Ning Qing did not like to talk, did not continue to ask about Ning Qing's matters. With the green coins in hand, he did not need to ask about anything else. Pei Pei brought Ning Qing out of Lucky Heaven City and brought out a battleship before speaking to Ning Qing with a smile. The merchant ships heading to Grand Culmination Starry Skies are all outside Striking Order Star Land. We will depart in 3 days. I will send you to the airship now. After getting on the airship, try not to talk too much, after all, you do not have a ticket. Thank you. Ning Qing nodded and entered Pei Pei's battleship. If Pei Pei had any ideas, he would not be able to do anything about it. At most, he would drag the other party down with him. To Ning Qing's relief, Pei Pei was a very well-behaved businessman and did not do anything to Ning Qing. Half an hour later, Pei Pei brought Ning Qing to the huge Starry Skies public square outside Striking Order Star Land. At the edge of the huge Starry Skies public square, in addition to the rows of buildings for handling identity jade cards, there were also more than a dozen huge airships parked there. Pei Pei took Ning Qing to one of the airships, and immediately a celestial gatherer cultivator with a goatee came over. This cultivator spoke to Pei Pei for a while before Ning Qing saw Pei Pei take out something for this cultivator. You and Steward Lu board the airship together. If you need any help, you can ask Steward Lu directly. I'll be leaving now. Pei Pei gave Ning Qing a simple sentence before turning around and walking away. Come with me. The goatee man brought Ning Cheng to the edge of one of the airships and made a gesture to the cultivator on the airship. A small door suddenly opened in the middle of the huge void airship, and a ladder extended out from this small door. Ning Cheng breathed in a sigh of relief. He was afraid that this fellow would ask him to fly up, which he did not have the ability to do. After Steward Lu brought Ning Cheng onto the airship, they continued to descend. After the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn, Steward Lu spoke up, "You can stay here for the time being." Ning Cheng then saw a huge hall in front of him, filled with all kinds of cultivators, both men and women. He looked at Steward Lu with some surprise. He had said that he would have a quiet place to rest, so why did he bring him to the big cabin? Steward Lu did not wait for Ning Cheng to speak and spoke with a smile, "When there is a free grocery room, I will arrange it for you." Ning Cheng knew that once Steward Lu spoke these words, it meant that he would never be able to have a quiet room. Now that he had boarded the airship, he could only give out a sigh in his heart and cupped his fists towards Steward Lu. "Many thanks, Sir Steward." Steward Lu showed a smile before turning around and walking away. On the void airship heading to Grand Culmination's starry skies, it was already good enough to have a place to stand, yet he still wanted a single room. Although everyone here were starry skies cultivators, there were too many people crowding in this place, which inevitably created some strange smells. Moreover, it was not easy to find a place to rest. Ning Cheng walked around for a long time but could not find a place to sit down. Some cultivators, on seeing Ning Cheng walking towards them, even deliberately stretched out their feet, meaning that there were already people here. "Friend, sit here with me, I still have some space here." Just when Ning Cheng was thinking about finding a place to sit down in the middle of the hall, a voice called out to him. When Ning Cheng looked back, he found that it was an old man with grizzled hair who looked exactly the same as his current appearance. This old man was also holding a wine pot in his hand. "Many thanks, friend." Ning Cheng replied politely and walked to the old man's side and sat down. This place was close to the corner of the hall and would not attract attention. The old man nodded to Ning Cheng and did not speak again. Ning Cheng was seriously injured and could not speak. He wanted to take out perpetual moon pills for cultivation, but taking out perpetual moon pills in this place would only be courting death. Ning Cheng's powerful starry skies sea of consciousness and vigorous celestial essence cultivation once again benefited him a lot. For ordinary cultivators, after taking the violent celestial pill, they would not show any signs of recovery within a few months. In just a few hours, Ning Cheng's celestial essence began to slowly condense, and his spiritual consciousness also began to slowly recover. This made Ning Cheng feel pleasantly surprised. In this place, without cultivation, one would only end up as an existence for others to humiliate. He initially thought that it would take at least a dozen days for him to recover his cultivation. He did not expect it to start recovering so quickly. At this moment, Ning Cheng did not care about where he was and immersed himself in the recovery of his spiritual consciousness and celestial essence. Even if the cabin was noisy, Ning Cheng directly ignored it. Ning Cheng obviously did not think about anything at this time, but something big had happened in Lucky Heaven City. Yu Clan's cultivators in Lucky Heaven City had all been killed. Connecting it to Yu Huangfu's death, everyone understood that someone had a grudge against the Yu Clan. Seeing the Yu Clan's cultivators killed in Lucky Heaven City, Striking Order Heavenly Emperor flew into a rage. If only one or two Yu Clan cultivators died, he would not have cared. But now, all the Yu Clan's cultivators in Lucky Heaven City had died, which was a slap to his face. What's more, he was about to head to Grand Culmination Starry Skies. How would he explain it to the Yu Clan? You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.